Ace, Vingen and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingen here with you. We are live at Bridgestone Arena. Predators versus Flames tonight. Puck drop at 7, pregame at 6, right here on 102.5 The Game. Predators GM Barry Trotz will join us here at Barrel House at 5 o'clock for his weekly visit. We will also be joined by Trevor Matich at 4:20 as we discuss Vanderbilt, the Heisman Trophy race, the college football playoff. We will get into it all with our friend Trevor at 4:20. But let's start the show this way, guys. This is a new one for us because we don't talk a lot of Cruton on this program.
Did you say Cruton?
Cruton, not recruiting, Cruton. We don't talk a lot of Cruton on this show, but we will because there were reports earlier today that 5-star quarterback Jared Curtis out of Nashville Christian, the number 1 quarterback prospect in the country, has flipped from Georgia to Vanderbilt. Now, Jared Curtis has pushed back on those reports. He posted on social media earlier, quote, "Don't know where all this is coming from. Haven't had a chance to talk to either school yet. I'll keep y'all posted." The official announcement is expected tomorrow at 9 a.m., but all signs point to Jared Curtis flipping from the Bulldogs to the Commodores. This would be the second split from the Bulldogs for Jared Curtis. So I guess he can't make up his mind, but it appears he has. He is leaving Georgia once again and joining the Commodores. And Willie, you were saying before the show, you've been watching Vanderbilt football for a long, long time. And I think it's safe to say that Jared Curtis is the highest rated prospect in program history.
I haven't researched that, but I would say, especially the fact that he plays quarterback, I don't think there's any doubt.
Well,
I don't think there's any doubt.
How does it compare to Jay Cutler? When Jay Cutler
was not recruited. He was not a big recruit at all. He's from Santa Claus, Indiana. He was a diamond in the rough. But a 5-star recruit who anybody in the country was after, Vanderbilt's never even sniffed a guy like that, really. Not with any serious, not at that level, right? There's been some good ones, but especially a kid from Nashville, it was almost assumed for decades that a kid like that. I remember Ingle Martin was a really good one, pretty highly recruited, went to Florida, ended up transferring to Furman and did really well, played a little bit in the NFL, is now the great coach at CPA. He was a guy that Vanderbilt really went all in on. He, I think, took a recruiting visit and things like that, but he didn't go. So to get a guy like this is unbelievable. It really, it is a huge, huge story. And this has been brewing for a while, since the week of game day.
Yes.
Nate Bargatze famously said, "Do you want to be in a movie? I don't really know the rules." But he threw it out there. Like, they went public.
Diego Pavia showed up to one of his games, right?
Yes. All that was going on. Press. Yes. I happened to be at a practice that week where I saw him there. So the story was kind of just blossoming at that point that, hey, he's really looking at this. I think Pavia is a central part of this equation. The speculation is that somebody at Georgia leaked it. It kind of spoiled the party. I think, his team has been a dominant high school team for a couple years now, Nashville Christian, coached by Jeff Brothers, a guy I went to college with. He and I are the same year at Vanderbilt. He was a really good player at Vanderbilt for Watson Brown and Jerry DiNardo. So I think they wanted to have an announcement before the championship game. So the speculation is it's going to be Vanderbilt, but, until it happens, D-Mays, you made this point. These days in college football, until the guy shows up on your campus, really, do you know anything? Like, you can sign and then decide you're not going.
But it speaks to, Derek, the glow-up that the Commodores football program has had over the past couple of years, of course, with Diego Pavia and Clark Lee at the helm, but also the school as a whole, the administration as well. A lot of resources have been pumped into the football program. So to have such a highly touted quarterback prospect flip from a blue blood of college football, when did you ever think you would hear this sentence? A 5-star quarterback recruit is leaving Georgia to go to Vanderbilt. When did you ever think you would hear that sentence?
Well, it's a new age of football now. I think we saw glimpses of it years ago when Travis Hunter chose to go to Jackson State, and he was the highly recruited player in the country, but he chose to go a different route. Now, obviously, he ended up at a Power 5 school in Colorado, but he was one of those guys that said, you know what, I'm going here, regardless of what everybody may be thinking. This is where I want to play my college football. And I think Jared is sort of following the same route. He understands now that, listen, college football, and I think people around it, college football is so much different now. No longer do you have the blue bloods, whether it's Alabama, Georgia, and we're just talking about the SEC, where they go out and they hoard all these players, and they get all these players, and these guys want to go. Why? Because I want to be in Alabama, and there's nothing else tangible they can receive other than, you know, a great degree, and if you play well, you get drafted. But now the tables have turned, and now that money can be legally pushed to players, all that old stuff, that old guard, that's out the window now. All that stuff is out the window. If you've shown you can win and you can pay me, okay, let's go. Vanderbilt, who would ever think I would go to Vanderbilt, meaning Jared? They're winning. They look like they're headed to something great in the future. I want to be a part of this, and they're going to pay me.
But I still admire, if he does follow through with this, this young man, I admire that he has, and I thought about this when Darius Garland is a similar story in basketball, and it unfortunately went, it went bad because he got hurt 5 or 6 games in and never really. But I got to see him play at USC, and that was an amazing game to watch. And I was like, man, this is going to be a fun year. And then about a week later, he hurt his knee and shut it down. But for him to take the stance of, Darius Garland, I think, could have gone to Duke, right? It was Duke and Vanderbilt. And that kid has a chance to say, I'll be the next guy at Georgia or Duke, like Georgia for Jared Curtis, Duke for Darius. And I'll just be one of, dozens of amazing players that they've had over the years. And also, when you're playing football at quarterback, they're going to have 3 quarterbacks at all times that are challenging. It's still about stacking numbers, right? But he has most kids when they're 18, they're getting recruited that much. They're like, well, I don't care who you recruit. I'm better. I'm 5-star.
But
I'm better than these guys.
Yeah,
but now it's a little bit more of what's the fit? How many guys are there? I think the players are being smarter, but I think still you have to commend Curtis for saying, I want to be the next guy at Vanderbilt. It would mean something to me to do it at Vanderbilt and not just another guy in a chain of great legacies at Georgia.
He can come to Vanderbilt, and make no mistake, this is about playing time and money. To me, he can go to Georgia, but Georgia's going to recruit another 4 or 5-star quarterback, and they're going to have Gunnar Stockton is still there. Exactly,
so he wouldn't be starting next year
anyway.
Anyway.
So these kids, they're looking at it like, man, I go here, that's like a wasted year for me. I'm the number 1 recruit in the country, or the number 1 quarterback recruit in the country. I don't want to be sitting my first year. Where can I go that I have a better shot at truly competing and winning the quarterback position? Vanderbilt is one of those schools. Obviously, Diego's leaving. They have other quarterbacks here. But when you recruit somebody that high, unless he just turns out to be really, really bad, he's the starter.
He's going to have every opportunity.
Yeah, he's going to have every opportunity to win.
We
that
know
job.
that they don't currently have a guy on the roster that is the heir apparent.
Exactly.
They have some other quarterbacks that are nice, but nobody in his class. So he will get that opportunity up front. I would think there would be maybe another guy in the mix. It's hard to put everything into a first-year freshman's basket. Even Arch Manning didn't start his first year.
Another 5-star is not going to. I'm not sure of another. It'd be great. But
I'm saying a transfer, an older transfer. I think that's probably what you would maybe do to create some competition and just guys get hurt. Yeah, you got to have other guys, but he's the opportunity is right there for you,
and to do it in your hometown.
Oh yeah,
I mean, what better way to start off your freshman year as the starter of your hometown team, and a team that is getting better. And their future looks very bright moving forward. So why wouldn't you want to be the star? Because what happens now, a domino effect happens. He says, I'm going to Vandy. then what does a receiver say or a tight end say? Man, I do like that offense, and they got okay. I'm coming with you.
Yeah. It does have a domino effect.
Guys, yes.
For those of you who are unfamiliar with Jared Curtis, The Athletic writes, quote, at Nashville Christian, Curtis has thrown for nearly 10,000 yards in his career and has led the Eagles to a 12-0 record in 2025 and a berth in the Division II Class A state finals. In 10 games this season, he missed 2+ games with an ankle injury. Curtis has thrown for 1,863 yards with 31 touchdowns and 6 interceptions and has rushed for 536 yards and 10 touchdowns.
Man, kid's a baller.
Yeah, and you know, it's a smaller high school.
Yeah.
They dominate most of their games, but I think it's more about the tools.
Exactly. What they project him to
Yes.
be.
And he's a runner and a passer. I think they can envision him. I think he can envision himself fitting well in that offense.
You have to be a dual threat in this offense. You have to be.
Let's go to Jason in Hendersonville on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jason, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
You're talking about the landscape changing with college football as far as these players. It is the money, the NIL, but there's also a third thing a quarterback needs to think about. And if I believe this young man is smart enough, you also look at the offensive line situation at all schools that you're going to go play at, and if he's comfortable with the offensive line situation at Vanderbilt, if a lot of those guys are coming back, or the coaching staff have expressed to him that they're going after a 4-star here or a 5-star here, and that too would probably persuade me, along with the playing time, obviously the money of the first two, but the offensive line is everything. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jason.
And that's their offensive linemen. All of those guys are upperclassmen.
Right, they're all super seniors, aren't they?
Yeah.
A lot of them are.
Exactly.
Yeah, but their depth is very good. I would imagine they'll have a few guys back, and
they'll get some transfer guys, I'm sure, some older guys, and I think that's the way. I think what has really changed, beside the money, I think, and the ability of these players to sort of navigate and move from school to school, I think what you're going to start seeing is, at certain positions, they're going to go older. They're going to try to get that 5th-year senior, say at quarterback or center.
Yeah, those offensive linemen who have experience, they make money in that portal.
And a lot of them come from that lower school.
Yes.
Some of them come from the lower schools, and they end up being good players.
Yes, the Vanderbilt, the T-shirt around the locker room they wear is Misfits, right? Yeah. There's a lot of guys, Pavia obviously from New Mexico State, but there's a lot of guys from schools like that who moved up to go to Vanderbilt to have a chance in the SEC and have done very well.
John on our text line says, Curtis denied the transfer on his Twitter/X account. We know, we discussed that. He's probably doing some damage control because he hasn't made his official announcement yet, but all signs point to him flipping his commitment from Georgia to Vanderbilt. Yeah. The official announcement is expected tomorrow at 9 a.m.
And there could be a lot of things that happen there. Like I heard this is all speculation, right? That perhaps somebody at Georgia spilled the beans,
right? To spoil
let it out to spoil the party. Yeah. Maybe he had not been able to tell Kirby Smart face to face yet. You know, Georgia's getting ready to play in the SEC championship game. They've got some big things going on. So, and that's hard to do, right? Exactly. If I could think of, if I'm 18 and sitting there going, boy, I'm decommitting. I've got to make, your parents are probably saying, hey, you've got to tell him. You got to tell him face to face.
Oh, of course.
You say, yeah, I got you, Dad. I got you, Mom.
Like, okay.
And I don't want to pick up the phone, man. I don't want to do that. It's a hard phone call to make. Yeah. It's hard enough to do, call your teacher and say you messed up or something like that, when you're that age.
Just say, hi, Kirby. It's Jared. I'm leaving. Bye.
I'm
Kirby,
sorry. You didn't pick up?
Sorry. I'm doing it again.
Call him when you know he's at practice. Hey, Kirby, I'm just going to leave a message. I know you're practicing now.
I was trying to catch you before practice.
The time changed. Sorry.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm flipping. Yeah.
I know Kirby is probably, it's like, man,
I think he's very aware at this point that all of the signals this has been weeks, right? Yeah. Since this surfaced. There was, how many weeks ago was the Missouri game? That's when it all surfaced that week.
4 weeks ago?
At least about a month, if not more.
Yeah.
So it's been percolating now for the past several weeks. But the reports do say that Jared Curtis, 5-star quarterback prospect out of Nashville Christian, is expected to decommit from Georgia again and land at Vanderbilt to replace Diego Pavia, who unfortunately cannot play any more
Dang
college
it.
football.
He ain't got one more year.
I wanted to see how
I
far
still
he could
think
go.
I still think Tim Corbin might have him at second base in the spring, just to stay there. Just have him around, get him in there.
Can't we just put a mustache on him or something?
Do you guys ever remember? This is me, the Mets fan.
Diego Labia.
Yeah.
That's the new guy.
That's the new guy. There was a famous Mets game where Bobby Valentine
Yes, of course.
got thrown out of a game, and later in the game he had a fake mustache and sunglasses on in the corner of the dugout, trying to still watch the game.
Now, you don't think Diego
But he was
Pavia
caught.
could
He was
pull that
caught.
off the entire
He knew
next
he was gonna
college
get
football
caught.
season?
But he just did it.
Yeah.
Now, Diego Pavia has done his job.
Yes.
He's put Vanderbilt in position for the college football playoff. We are going to talk about his Heisman candidacy coming up next. He's put himself in position to challenge for the Heisman Trophy. And look, Diego Pavia's fingerprints are all over this. As I said before, it's not just Diego Pavia. It's Clark Lee. It's the administration at Vanderbilt giving the football program the resources to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But Diego Pavia played a gigantic role. I know this might sound a bit hyperbolic, but I do think that Diego Pavia's influence is going to be felt on this program long after he's gone. Like, I think
even if this is the only thing he did, is
right.
Former relationship with this kid, that's a pay it forward move right there. But I do think you're right, Adam, that, I feel like they're going to, if wherever he goes, he can do a lot of things, but he could end up back here in some phase as a motivator, ambassador, something.
Coach.
Yeah. You want him in there.
615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll take your reaction to Jared Curtis reportedly decommitting from Georgia and signing up with Vanderbilt. The official announcement is expected tomorrow at 9 a.m. So we'll see if it comes to pass. If he puts on that black and gold hat, we'll see tomorrow morning. But all signs point to Jared Curtis flipping from Georgia to Vanderbilt. We'll take your thoughts on that. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, let's focus on the current Vanderbilt quarterback, Diego Pavia. What should his odds be of winning the Heisman Trophy? Should he be the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy? I've crunched the numbers, and we will get to that coming up next. 615-737-1025. We are presented by Bax Homeworks. Financing options are available to make your remodel easier than you think with Bax Homeworks. Get a free estimate now at baxhomeworks.com.
Hey, let's tell you about Loan Pronto. Remember the deal that's going on right now, trying to take advantage of lower rates. There's a couple of ways you can do it. You can straight up, if you need it, take money out of your home's equity and use it to pay off high-interest credit cards or car payments that have high interest rates. Even skip your next two house payments. Or if you just want a straight refi, if you got stuck with a high interest rate a year or two ago when the rates were really high, you can get that down, save money every month. And yes, skip the next two house payments. How's that for your budget to start 2026? You can do this quick. They've got a streamlined process, and they've got this system down. They are A-plus rated with the BBB, and they have nearly 2,500 five-star Google reviews. So call right now. Rates are low. 615-499-5780 is the number, or visit loanpronto.com and get that free instant home appraisal. See how much money you can save. 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781 on approved credit. Visit NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
And what I think is interesting is that two of the three candidates are quarterbacks at programs that weren't not just good, but were like laughing stocks of college football for much of the past few decades.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
The difference is Pavia is the one who lifted Vandy out of that. Mendoza didn't lift Indiana out of that because Curtis Rourke was the starter there last year, but Mendoza leveled Indiana up.
Which brings us to Pavia.
Yeah.
When you think about the Heisman Trophy and telling the story of the season and outstanding play and electric, moments, he is the one that I believe signifies how I view the award.
That was Ari Wasserman and Andy Staples from On 3 discussing the Heisman Trophy race. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingen here at Bridgestone Arena.
How many Heisman voters were listening to that podcast? That's
a good question.
How many voters are sitting there looking at their ballot, listening to different perspectives?
Hopefully all of them.
Well, Diego Pavia has been on a full-on media blitz this
Yes,
week.
he has.
Yes, he was on Bussin' with the Boys again. I saw him on Wake Up Barstool. He's doing a full-on campaign for himself as the Heisman Trophy winner and Vanderbilt to make it into the college football playoff. David James is back at our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Let's go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Dylan is on the line. I hear Dylan is an Indiana fan. Hello, Dylan. How are you?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Mr. Donick, how you doing?
Hello, Dylan.
Mr. Donick.
Mr. Donick. So, yeah, as you guys know, or as Mr. Donick knows, I was born a Hoosier. Your son actually converted me over to being a Vanderbilt fan. Huge fan of Pavia, but I just think that Mendoza is the front runner for the Heisman. I think he's got it in the bag this year.
Well,
Okay, so Dylan has been watching this closely,
Yeah.
right? So he and Mahoney are teammates, quasi-roommates. They're in the room next to each other. They play baseball at Denison.
Oh, that's why Mr. Donick.
I think that's why I got the Mr. Donick from
Okay.
Dylan. He didn't need to do that. We can be on a first
Well,
name
Dylan,
basis.
let me ask you this question. What do you make of the argument you just heard that although Mendoza has led the Hoosiers to a great season, they had a great season without him last year? What do you make of that argument for the Heisman Trophy?
Yeah, I think the 2 great years back-to-back is more of a Signetti thing. I think this year is completely different than last year. I think Mendoza is a better all-around quarterback than Curtis Rourke. I mean, he's sitting at 32-5 right now, touchdown-turnover ratio. And, I mean, his yards aren't the best right now, but I think that's because when you're up 30 a game, you don't need to throw the ball as much. Now, I don't want to take away anything from Pavia. I've seen every game of his. That dude he's the man, and I don't want to take anything away from him. But if you look at dominance as a quarterback, I think Mendoza is just your Heisman. He's the best quarterback, best all-around player.
Thank you for the call, Dylan. Mr. Donick. I'm not going to call you that. But here, so I did some number crunching.
I think it's those two. That's
Right.
I don't know how you guys feel. I think it's a 2-horse race between those two.
So
My guess.
DraftKings Sportsbook has, at the moment, Mendoza as the favorite at plus 160, followed by Julian Sayin of Ohio State at plus 170 and Pavia at plus 190. After those three, Jeremiah Love, the Notre Dame running back, is at plus 3,000. So DraftKings Sportsbook sees it as a 3-person race between the 3 quarterbacks. And I heard what Dylan just said. I looked at some basic numbers, some fancy stats. So Diego Pavia, for example, has thrown for more passing yards than both Mendoza and Sayin. Touchdown to interception ratio. Mendoza 32-5, Sayin 30-5, Pavia 27-8. Total touchdowns, rushing touchdowns and passing touchdowns. Pavia is at 36. He has 9 rushing touchdowns. Mendoza is at 38. He has 32 passing touchdowns, 6 rushing touchdowns. And Sayin has 30 passing touchdowns, 0 rushing touchdowns. He's not a runner.
Is Mendoza a runner?
He has 200.
He
has 243 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns versus Pavia's 826
Right.
rushing yards and 9 touchdowns.
So I think if I'm arguing just the stat part of it, and Dylan made a good point about the dominance, right? You have to take some credit for your team is dominant, and so that will affect the numbers. But I think there's something to be said for being able to do these great things in the clutch in some more closer games, tougher competition week in and week out. But the central part, if you say, okay, they match each other in passing numbers more or less, and you've got Pavia, who is a primary runner. He's not just a run when you need to run. They run everything through him, everything.
When I look at some of the other stats on Pro Football Focus, for example, Big time throw percentage. Pavia is fourth among qualified quarterbacks. There are 92 of those qualified quarterbacks, a minimum of 300 dropbacks. He is fourth in big time throw percentage. Mendoza is tied for 18th. Sayin is 25th. Turnover worthy play percentage. Pavia and Mendoza are tied at 2.5%, and Sayin is at 1.4%. But to me, Pavia being at 2.5% is impressive considering how much the ball is in his hands, right? Like the fact that he's not turning it over, he's not making too many boneheaded plays, despite the number of times he has the ball in his hands. So although it's higher than Sayin, tied with Mendoza, I think when you put it into context of how what Willie just said, how everything runs through Pavia, I think that's an impressive number.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch these three individuals play, you know that one guy has more on his shoulders than the other guys. Not to say that Mendoza and Sayin aren't good players. I think Sayin, I think he's there because his team is the number one team in the country and his stats are good.
Yes,
but he's not even the best player on his team. I think Mendoza. One thing that works for him, I believe, they're 11-0. He's been consistent throughout the whole season. So I think that works in his favor. But if you're just looking at it based on numbers and what the guy means to his team, there's no way that Pavia shouldn't be the favorite to win the Heisman. Now I get it. We don't understand. When they're looking at the Heisman, what are they really voting on? Are they voting on the most valuable player, the best player, the most important player to a team? Because Diego, I think he fits all of those. I think he's shown that he could be the best player in college football. He's definitely the best and the most important player on his team. And their team is 10-2. And they're still fighting for a college football playoff berth. So you can't use those things. Oh, Vandy's lost 4 or 5 games. Maybe you can use that against him in the past. You can't use it against him now. He's played well when we needed to play well, even though he threw interceptions. He came back and he got better, each and every game. So would I be surprised if Pavia wins it? No, not at all. But I think they've set it up because Indiana and Ohio State plays. And if Mendoza against that number one team, that defense, if he plays really well, he's going to win the Heisman. Why? Because this is the last performance we've seen of a quarterback. If Diego would have did that in, say, the SEC championship game, then it would have been, okay, right, who's going to win it? But
Mendoza has a chance for the spotlight.
Exactly. He has the chance for a spotlight.
Here are some other numbers in favor of Pavia. Cole Kubelik pointed this out. Pavia is the first player in SEC history with 400 total yards in 4 consecutive games. Think about that. Think about all of the fantastic players who have played SEC football. Pavia is the first with 400 total yards in 4 consecutive games, and this was at the end of the season. This is not at the beginning of the season when Vanderbilt was playing Charleston Southern and Georgia State. This was against Texas. This was against Auburn. This was against Kentucky. This was against Tennessee on the road. So put that in Pavia's favor. The other thing with Julian Sayin is, I know Ohio State is a powerhouse. Think about the level of talent Sayin has around him. He has Carnell Tate, who is one of the top prospects in the upcoming NFL draft. He has Jeremiah Smith at wide receiver as well, who is 5th in Heisman odds right now. So, and Willie, you also mentioned he barely has to throw passes in the fourth quarter because the team Ohio State is clobbering its opponents.
They've not been behind one time in the fourth quarter. He's thrown 25 passes in the fourth quarter for the whole season, or at least going into the Michigan game. Here's a question I have, Adam, as you read off these stats, because these are important. And here's one that I was sent. Pavia is top 3. In college football, you have passing quarterbacks at places where it's sling it all over the place, and you have some that run, running quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. He's top 3 in both, in passer efficiency and rushing among Power 4 quarterbacks. So it's the blend of the two. Nobody can match that. Not saying, not Mendoza, not anybody really. Nobody has got top 3 in both. But here's my question, Adam. You've taken the time to look at this. Every Heisman Trophy voter is different.
Yes.
How many will take the time to really study it? I vote for the Wooden Award, okay? I'm probably in the middle of the spectrum. I'm a hockey announcer, right? I watch as much college basketball as I could possibly watch. But I'd be lying to you if I told you that I watch all of the top 25 Wooden candidates, time in, time out. I watch when I can. I get the list. I try to do my due diligence, and I study the analytics. I look at the Pomeroy rankings. My personal thing is I weigh the postseason bigger because that's obviously I can watch more at that point, and I think that's when there's more on the line. But my point is, it's a huge spectrum, right? There may be some voters, and for example, all the people you see on the TV commercials, the former Heisman winners, they vote, right? Eddie George votes. So how do they go about selecting a tough call, right? It could be as simple as, hey, I'm going to watch the Ohio State-Indiana game. Hey, that guy looks pretty good. That was a great game. I'm voting for him. Like it could be that simple, right? For some people.
And I have the privilege of voting for many major NHL awards, including the Hart Trophy, which is the MVP award. And it's what Derek just said. Some people value MVP as the best player regardless. I am of the most valuable to his team kind of voter. Take that guy off of that team. How does that team look without that guy? Right? And I think it's easy to say, how would the Vanderbilt Commodores perform without Diego Pavia? I have to imagine it would be significantly worse. John on our text line says, compare red zone turnovers. Well, I don't have those, but here's something interesting. So in that clip we played from Ari Wasserman and Andy Staples and On 3, I did not include the whole clip because it was a little bit too long. But Wasserman goes on to say that if you want to get into the weeds a little bit on Vanderbilt, you could make the argument that the reason why Vanderbilt doesn't have a high chance to get into the college football playoff is because of Pavia's performance specifically at Alabama. He also acknowledges that's not a fair thing to say. His co-host, Andy Staples, said, he mentioned the red zone turnovers against Alabama. If they win that game, if he doesn't do that, they probably win that game. They're 11-1. They're in the SEC title game. So there may be some voters who say, well, hey, he may have cost his team a big game. They could be 11-1 instead of 10-2. They're not on the bubble anymore if he doesn't throw those 2 red zone turnovers. So that could be something that comes into play.
Yeah, he had a fumble and he threw an interception. It was both at key times.
Right, it was
of
a
the
fumble.
game.
I'm sorry.
In the red zone, and there could have been 10 voters. That might be the only game that they watched because it was a huge game, and that might be somebody in another region of the country saying, "Hey, let's look at this Pavia guy. He saw that game, and that could influence you."
But then also you got to look at the games where he brought him back,
like
he
Tennessee,
like Texas, games like that, or he's kept them in games.
Yes.
So it's hard to really, sort of nail down what the voters are going to be actually looking for. Maybe it's, hey, we saw Mendoza last, he played great, he wins it, or we saw Mendoza last, he didn't play great, neither did Saying, it was more of a defensive battle. I'm going with Pavia. So it can be something like that. But I think the best thing for him, Pavia, would be if Ohio State won and Saying didn't play well. He was just an average quarterback. Mendoza didn't play well. He wouldn't win it because they end up losing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's another way Diego can find himself winning the Heisman if it's Ohio State wins. Because we know that you can slide another quarterback into Ohio State, but they still win the same amount of games probably because of the talent that they have on the outside.
Well, I do believe we have a Heisman voter on the station, Mr. Joe Rexroad.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we need to grease the wheels.
Rex. Yeah, we need to ask Rex.
With
What is he
Rexroad.
looking for?
Well, he wrote. I think he wrote. He was leaning towards Pavia, if I recall.
He made the point that
He speculated
right.
that he might. I guess he didn't fully commit in this.
But he made the
column.
point that it's a lot of vibes, right? He's been around Vanderbilt the past few years. He knows how important Diego Pavia has been to the glow up of the program. And I agree. I know that vibes are not a tangible thing. You can't look at those up on the internet, but
But it is if you want it to be in your criteria,
Yeah.
it is in your criteria because there is no criteria other than to say vote for the best guy.
The other thing I looked up quickly, Diego Pavia has led the Commodores to 3 wins as an underdog this season at Virginia Tech, at South Carolina, and at Tennessee. Mendoza has 1 win as an underdog, which was at Oregon, which I think is the only game Indiana was an underdog. I think they're an underdog against the Buckeyes this weekend, but in the regular season, that was the only game Indiana was an underdog, and he won. And Sayan, of course, has no wins as an underdog because Ohio State is favored in every game. 615-737-1025.
With or without saying.
Right. That goes without saying. I just had to slip that in there. 615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on the Heisman Trophy race. Should Diego Pavia be the front runner? He's 3rd in odds at DraftKings Sportsbooks, but should he be the favorite? 615-737-1025. We will take your reaction coming up next. This holiday season, 1025 The Game is looking out for the kiddos. We want to donate a bunch of stuffed toys to the Nashville Children's Alliance to be given to kids this holiday, but we can't do it without you. Join us at a Dunkin' location near your neighborhood the week of December 8th through the 12th to drop off a stuffed toy that the child will love. Find the locations now at thegamenashville.com/toy. Also, we would like to thank the Metro Nashville Police Department for all of their help with this promotion.
I don't know a world that exists where this team doesn't belong in that field. I'm learning right now about all the flaws and how we determine who's in, who's out. I'm very interested in fighting against any perception. I think there's a bias against Vanderbilt. I think we have been ignored early in the season. We were not given a chance. It took us winning our way into the conversation, and all we've done is line them up and knock them down. And obviously we got two kind of flaws on our schedule, a loss at Alabama, a loss at Texas. Both those games, we were in it in the fourth quarter. I would love to play those games again. Listen, we'll play anywhere and everywhere. Put the ball down in the parking lot. Anyone they want to put us against in that playoff, if they want us to play in, we'll play in. If they want us to play 3 games to get in, we'll play 3 games to get in. This team deserves to be there, and I'm proud of what we've done, but we deserve a chance to win a national championship.
Doesn't that fire you up, Willie? Put the ball in the parking lot.
We have actually put the ball in the parking lot.
A last-minute change to the system.
That, of course,
these 4 teams will go into the parking lot, and 4 teams enter, 2 teams advance.
There was a video game. There was a video game that I loved back in the day. NFL Blitz.
Yes.
There was also, I think, NFL Street, and I think Diego Pavia would be quite good at that. That, of course, was Clark Lee on the SEC Network making the case for Vanderbilt. We hope to catch up with Clark Lee ourselves later this week. But tonight, the penultimate CFP rankings revealed, because the actual bracket will be revealed next week, and I'm not expecting Vanderbilt to be in the field. I would like to see them at least move up. They've been stuck at 14 now for the past couple of weeks.
I think that's the key. I think from Vanderbilt's angle, when Clark was talking about, I've been learning all day. I think he said something to that effect about, the metrics and how that is what, and you guys saw this, right? There was a press release, and it circulated last night on social media.
I've got it right in front of me.
The document that they put out there to try to make their case, state their case of trying, as I did yesterday on our show when I was stating the case. To me, the key is that the committee has to have an open mind and reset everybody now that everybody's played the 12 games. I don't care where you were in week 9, 10, 11, and 12. It's where you are now. Everybody's played. Let's now put everybody's schedule next to one another and compare. I think when you do that, I think the committee, if they have that open mind, could have Vanderbilt, especially with now that win on Saturday, which is arguably their best win at Tennessee, they could slide up a couple notches. If they don't, then I don't know how they're going to do it, right? But if they do jump a couple of notches, then maybe that gives them hope that next Tuesday they could sneak in.
Just a refresher. Last week, Vanderbilt held at number 14. It's been where the Commodores have been for the past couple of weeks. Utah at 13, Miami at 12. Those are the 2 teams directly in front of Vanderbilt. BYU at 11, Alabama at 10.
What number is Notre Dame?
Notre Dame is 9.
See, Notre Dame
is safe.
Put a schedule up of the who played who.
Oh, Notre Dame's it's not even.
But no, take the teams off the top, right? Those, they do that sometimes. Lenardi will put up
the blind resume,
or during a random college basketball game, they'll put 3 resumes up there and say who are these teams.
But Notre Dame will be out. I would vote Notre Dame out.
So I think that is one thing that they are trying to look at is there some brand bias? Vanderbilt has not been. I think I heard Clark Lee use the term brand bias, right? He does believe.
Yes.
That's Clark Lee is a guy that coached at Vanderbilt. At Notre Dame. He was the defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, for those that don't know, before he became the head coach.
So he is
Vanderbilt.
Intimately aware what's the positive side of brand bias.
No question. So he knows about Notre Dame. It's not a shot at Notre Dame. But Notre Dame is an epic college football program that's been around forever. But here is the question. You got 2 teams at 10-2, Notre Dame and Vanderbilt.
Yep.
Flip the schedules.
Yep.
Because Vanderbilt has a tougher schedule than Notre Dame. Fact. That's a fact. Significant margin. If the schedules were flipped, would there be any doubt that Notre Dame would be ranked ahead of Vanderbilt?
Probably not.
It's not even a question. Of course they would be. It would be a no-brainer. Notre Dame has a better schedule than Vanderbilt, and it's Notre Dame. So that's what we're saying. brand by. Well, Notre Dame has nobody else to play.
Yeah.
They're done.
Here was Notre Dame.
They don't play in a league.
Here was Notre Dame's schedule, by the way, quickly. At Miami, home to Texas A&M, home to Purdue, at Arkansas, home to Boise State, home to NC State, home to USC, at Boston College.
They didn't play anybody.
Home to Navy, at Pittsburgh, home to Syracuse, at Stanford.
Cupcakes. A lot of cupcakes in there. So the Vanderbilt has the better strength of schedule. They play in the toughest league in America by far. They both have the same record. Vanderbilt won at Tennessee. So it's really not close when you look at the metrics. But Notre Dame is ranked 9th. Why? Because it's Notre Dame.
Yeah, I mean,
so that's
Notre
what they're
Dame
trying
is a
to
lot.
open your mind. If you're on the committee, you've got to get them to open their mind and say, if the schedule flipped, if Notre Dame had played that schedule and Vanderbilt had played Notre Dame's schedule and gone 10-2 with the exact same wins, it wouldn't even be a discussion. That's the brand bias.
Vanderbilt's schedule is 22nd. As a refresher, Vanderbilt's schedule is 22nd. Notre Dame's is 42nd.
How else do you split two schools like that? How can Notre Dame be ranked ahead of Vanderbilt? Because it's Notre Dame. That's the answer. So brand bias has to be addressed. What other reason can you give me?
Rudy was offside.
Rudy was offside because analytics. This is another part of the Vanderbilt's document, the document they sent out.
Yes.
If you want to look deep, and Adam, this is right up your alley.
Oh, you know it is. I looked at this document. I like this document.
You love that document.
I like that.
Vanderbilt's analytics are better than Notre Dame's. So don't tell me that, well, Notre Dame blew out such and such, or they blew out this. Vanderbilt's metrics are better than Notre Dame. There's no other explanation than Notre Dame is Notre Dame. That's the only thing.
I like the header. Direct, data-driven, no spin, just the facts. That's what it says at the top. The bottom line, according to the Vanderbilt document, no bubble team has a stronger combination of resume, advanced metrics, ranked wins, dominance, offensive efficiency, and a marquee quarterback. Vanderbilt is a top 10 team by every modern measurement and a top 4 entertainment value.
So this also goes to the conspiracy theory, too, of Notre Dame brings great ratings. They have a national following. So do they get a bump because it's Notre Dame? I think that's one of the reasons Vanderbilt put in there, well, we've got the most exciting player in college football. We're bringing something to the table. We're not a zero when it comes to that. So is it going to be fair? There's no explanation why Notre Dame should be ahead of Vanderbilt.
Let's go to Brian on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Brian, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. Lifelong Vanderbilt football fan here. And as happy as I can be with the season, it's going to be so disappointing if we get left out. A couple things that people are overlooking, not just the Notre Dame or Miami, but even Oklahoma. And, I think one thing that gets left out as well is like in the NIL era where you have a team like LSU who Vanderbilt beat when they were ranked 10th in the country, who then sits their potential first-day draft pick quarterback for the rest of the year because he's not going to play anymore because there's nothing to play for. You see like teams like South Carolina or even others that give up on the season, the SEC fired coaches, and really all of this kind of happened after Vanderbilt beats these teams, whether it be, LSU, whether it be Auburn, and that just gets overlooked by all these other conferences where they're able to stat pad. If you think about, you see the bottom half of the top 25 right now. You see teams like Pitt that are able to maintain a top 25 status, even though they get dusted by Miami at home, then dusted by Notre Dame at home, because they just don't play anybody for 4 straight weeks. But in the SEC, you've got to play. You got to bring your A game every single Saturday, regardless of who you're playing, whether it's Mississippi State, whether it's Auburn, whether it's LSU, because the talent level of those teams far superior to any other conference with the exception of the top half of the Big Ten. Anyways, I'll hang up and listen. But one thing I'd love to see is the Auburn-Oklahoma game from earlier in the year where Auburn clearly got screwed by the refs, pretty much gave the game to Oklahoma. Is the only reason Oklahoma is now in the college football playoff. They shouldn't be there. They don't have a top 50 offense. I would love to see Vanderbilt jump Miami, Notre Dame, and even Oklahoma.
Thank you for the call, Brian.
That is a great point. And I won't. I'm not going to use it against Oklahoma because Oklahoma deserves to be in there. But that is a fact, right? They screwed up that game. Auburn clearly, I don't want to say would have won the game, but very well could have won that game. But the point is that when you say, well, hey, Auburn took Vanderbilt to overtime and Auburn was 4-8. Auburn was good enough to take Vanderbilt to overtime. Auburn is in a tie game with Alabama with a 4th and goal from the 2, where if they get one stop, they get the ball back with the game tied. As it was, Alabama scored. Auburn is driving and fumbles in Alabama territory. That's a razor's edge game.
Yeah.
And as just pointed out, Auburn can go to Oklahoma. That doesn't happen in other leagues. Syracuse is not doing that, right? Stanford is not doing that. These teams that Notre Dame played, and a lot of the teams in the ACC, they're not doing that. So yes, these are teams that are 4-8 or 7-5 or whatever. But great point by the caller. In the SEC, everybody challenges you every week. There are no weeks off.
615-737-1025. We see your reaction. We will get to it next. 615-737-1025. In the upcoming hour, we will also get into the Tennessee Titans. Some interesting comments after the loss to Jacksonville from Jeffrey Simmons. We will talk about those in the second hour. We'll catch up with Trevor Maddich as well. That's all coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. Emays, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5. The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. We are live at Bridgestone Arena, where the Predators will host the Flames tonight at 7. Barry Trotz will join us in 1 hour right here at this very desk inside Bridgestone Arena at Barrel House. So we will catch up with Barry Trotz in an hour. Trevor Maddich will join us at 4:20. We will get his thoughts on all things college football in just a matter of moments. But we will continue the conversation. We'll take your reaction to the college football playoff, Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia, the Heisman Trophy. All of it's on the table. 615-737-1025. Let's start with Andrew, who's been waiting patiently on our phone line. Andrew, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey, guys. I've got a random thought, but I was thinking, if you ever seen the movie Billy Madison where they have, like, a decathlon, what if you invite, like, Miami, Notre Dame, and Vanderbilt all at a neutral site, and they compete for their case to be in the college football playoff like Billy Madison style for that decathlon? Honestly, no. I mean, I know that wouldn't work, but in all seriousness, how does this open up an opportunity for a discussion about a playing game? I'll hang up the listen.
A play-in game. Thank you, Andrew. The opening the discussion for a play-in game for the college football playoff.
You know, it's a great thought, and I think this also is going to have them go to 16 sooner than later. But the problem with it is no matter where you draw the line, these debates are just going to happen with teams. Instead of teams 11, 12, 13, 14, it's going to be teams 15, 16, 17, 18, and probably more, because the deeper you go, the more teams have a similar resume. If you get into 3-loss teams, you'd have a dozen teams in there, right?
Yeah.
All clamoring that they were stronger. So the more you bring in, the more it's like the song "More Money, More Problems." More teams, more debates. I think, is that a new song coming out? More teams, more debates, by Adam Vingan, the analytics expert.
Nobody wants to hear me sing or rap. So I will leave it to somebody else to do that. Matt from Jolton says, I feel like Vandy deserves to be in the playoff. They will need BYU to get blown out by Texas Tech. One thing that helps Vanderbilt was my Wolverines losing to Ohio State. I never really considered Michigan a true college football playoff contender. BYU is the bit stealer, right? If BYU, well, let me ask you guys this question. If BYU played Texas Tech a few weeks ago, got clobbered. Let's say BYU exacts revenge on Texas Tech in the Big 12 title game. BYU gets in. Do you also think Texas Tech gets in as well?
I think they get in. I think both teams.
I think it's a bid stealing situation like we often see in conference championship games in basketball. Willie's thinking about this.
Well, no, it's simpler if Texas Tech takes care of BYU.
Right.
It's
but
simpler
if BYU,
that way.
If BYU
Right.
were to win, do you think Texas Tech also gets in?
How many
Look,
losses? does Texas
you're
Tech
you're
have?
asking
Two
that.
losses.
That would be 2 for
I
Texas
think they
Tech.
still get in.
You're asking that to an SEC snob, right?
Yeah,
I know
still
my
get in.
answer, but I'm an SEC snob. I also get that there are politics. There is, I think, an underlying pressure from some on the committee to try to balance the field to where it's not the SEC Invitational. I do think that is a thing. They're trying to overlook the fact that the SEC has more resources, as the bigger spotlight, and they are the best. But how do you do a tournament, a national tournament, and try to feel like everybody's got a chance and everybody's involved? That is a thing. It's a pull and push.
One texter says, I hope this whole ordeal with Jared Curtis sweeping the nation right now inadvertently adds some bias to the playoff committee and it gets Vandy in the playoff. The decommitment from Georgia was even written about in the New York Times today. The Athletic, of course, owned by the New York Times. But this texter saying that he hopes that the Jared Curtis flip, maybe that's a check in Vanderbilt's favor. I don't think so, but it is a nice thought.
And if Nate Bargatze gets him in a movie, then we have a whole new thing too. Nate Bargatze's got pull.
Now we have 2 texters here, Ricky and Maddie, who are both asking the same question. Who would win head-to-head between Notre Dame and Vanderbilt? Ricky says they think, meaning the committee, Notre Dame would win the head-to-head.
Why?
He does not specify. Ricky, if you're listening, you can.
No, I'd like to know what the argument is. Just because they're Notre Dame?
I mean,
Vanderbilt
I
played
think
Notre
it
Dame
would
before.
be-
They played up
I
there
think it would be a toss-up. But if you
on a
if you're
neutral
saying
field.
if you're
Neutral
saying what
field.
the line would be, I think Notre Dame would be a favorite. How much of a favorite? I don't know.
But are they a favorite
That's like-
because of the perception,
I think it'd
or
be
are they a
favorite.
favorite straight up because of what the real line is?
I
Like,
think-
there's the real line, and then there's
I
the
think they're a good-
perception line because they know there's
Yeah.
more Notre Dame fans that just want to bet on Notre Dame because they're a Notre Dame fan.
I think Notre
That's how
Dame
the line works.
is a good team. Now, their schedule doesn't afford them, other than their first 2 games of the season. Now, you can look at Pitt and those guys at the end, but Pitt, they're just not a good team. They're not a team that was seriously, once we got toward the last 3 or 4 games, Pitt, their record says, but if you watch them, they really wasn't a good team. I think Notre Dame's a good team, but this is the problem with Notre Dame, is that I don't care how good you are. If you're not in a conference and you lose to 2 conference teams, the SEC, people are going to be looking at your schedule like the only 2 teams you didn't even split with the SEC. You lost both of them. And then you just ran the gamut on your schedule, which was soft, really, with the exception of USC. But you put work in on USC, you put work in on Pitt. I think Notre Dame is a damn good team. But because of their schedule, people are still looking at it like, are they really better than Vandy? I think on a neutral field, because of the brand, I think Notre Dame would be favored. But also, Notre Dame's a really good football team.
Yeah,
too.
they're good.
They're a really good.
Look, there's
football
going to
team.
be there are playoff worthy teams
Yeah.
that are going to be kept out of this thing who were worthy of being in there. Here is my question. Notre Dame played one SEC team, Texas A&M. It was a great win for Texas A&M. It went right down to the last couple plays. What is Texas A&M's strength of schedule within the league? What's it overall?
Do you know the answer? Or
I don't know the answer. But it was weak. They played one of the easier SEC schedules of anybody.
Texas A&M. Let's take a look.
Re-
Texas A&M against SEC competition. Hosted Auburn, hosted Mississippi State, hosted Florida, went to Arkansas, went to LSU, went to Missouri, hosted South Carolina, went to Texas, and lost.
And late in the year, they played Missouri and LSU after Missouri and LSU were kind of on the well. They sort of ended the Brian Kelly thing. They Vanderbilt sort of gashed Brian Kelly, and then Texas A&M put him away. Right? They put him into the deep freeze.
Yes.
So I think if you compare that schedule to other teams, they had an easier schedule than some in the SEC. I mean, the first 4 you said: Florida, Mississippi State, Auburn. I mean, everybody's good in the SEC, even the last 4 teams.
But you can't use
But
that argument.
But they didn't play the heavyweights.
And by the way,
they played the fewest heavyweights.
By the way,
in the league. But
Texas A&M is 15th in overall strength of schedule.
and they were able to win at Notre Dame. So I don't know. I don't know what the line was. Notre Dame was probably favored in that game going way back. That was only about the 4th week of the season.
But then they still counted as, listen, you're playing the SEC foe. Y'all are considered the best conference in the country. Then, if you win those games are counted for you. But on the same hand, it seems like some are being counted against some teams within the SEC, mainly Vanderbilt. Well, you beat Missouri and you beat SC, South Carolina. Their quarterbacks were injured, got injured during the game, or when they end up not being a good team. Okay, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't say the SEC is a dominant conference, but then say, "Well, you didn't play tough team. You didn't." You can't have it both ways.
I'm only bringing this up.
I'm not saying you, but that's
so
the
that we
argument.
can try to set, instead of just saying, "Hey, who would win on a neutral field?" I'm trying to establish what we think the line would be on a neutral field. Texas A&M won at Notre Dame.
For what it's worth, Notre Dame was favored by 6.5 in that game against Texas A&M earlier
Right,
this season.
because people didn't know how good Texas A&M was at the time. So I just feel like look, you heard Clark Lee. They would love to match up and find out how good they are against Notre Dame. They would salivate for that matchup.
And one texter said to that clip, "I would run through an effing brick wall for Clark Lee. Put him in the parking lot." You know, Clark Lee would be down for that. Will on our text line says, "I agree. The SEC is still a very competitive conference, But since NIL 2 years ago, the Big Ten won both championships and went 5-1 in the bowl games versus the SEC last year. So are bottom SEC teams better than record, or top ones not much better?
The bowl games are hard to gauge now because of the turnover in the rosters and the coaching staffs.
Yeah.
They're not the same as they used to be. But you definitely use that when it goes your way.
Uh-huh.
You say, "Oh, look at those bowl games."
Look at that
That's
national
what you do.
championship.
Yeah.
So I mean, listen, I think the SEC from top to bottom, they are the better conference. When you get into bowl season, there are a lot of circumstances, guys transferring, guys leaving, this and that. It's just a whole bunch of stuff that goes on. Have some of the guys that are seniors, their mind is the NFL draft and stuff like that. So if you're not playing for a national championship, it's hard to kind of gauge, the bowl games when it comes to conferences. Now, if your conference win all theirs, then you're gonna have bragging rights. If they lose all theirs, then you don't want to say anything about the bowl game.
Like, did Cam Ward play half of his bowl game last year?
He played
Like,
half of the game.
how do you judge whether that was?
It was hard
Cam,
to judge.
Cam Ward had the audacity to sit out of the second half of the Pop-Tarts Bowl. The Pop-Tarts Bowl.
I mean, why? He had already discussed it with his coach. I did
The
what I needed to
audacity.
do. Let the young guy come in here and see what y'all got.
The Pop-Tarts Bowl, guys. The Pop-Tarts Bowl.
I'm surprised he played the
Historic
bowl game,
bowl,
period.
The same bowl game where they take a sentient Pop-Tart and burn it alive before they feast on it.
Yes.
That same Pop-Tarts
How could you
Bowl.
sit out the second half of that game?
I'm surprised he played in the game, period.
Yes. Matt in Nashville says bowl games are the NIT of football now, meaning non-CFP bowl games. Chad, and this is an argument you're going to hear a lot. Chad says Vandy's wins just aren't that impressive. No teams they beat will finish ranked.
Okay. All right, let's take that. I already used one of these yesterday. Who did LSU lose to?
Remind us.
I got to pull it up.
They had a hard, very
Ole
difficult
Miss.
schedule.
Vanderbilt,
Alabama.
Texas A&M. They're 5 playoff teams,
Yeah.
basically. And I'll pull it up. But let's take another one. Just give me 1 second, because when you say, "Oh, they're not ranked anymore," look at these schedules. Okay, who did Tennessee lose to? Vanderbilt,
Georgia,
Oklahoma, 3 playoff teams,
and Alabama.
and Alabama, 4 playoff teams.
Yes.
They don't lose to the sisters of the poor, all right, or whatever the term you want to use, your cupcakes, whatever. They don't lose to the cupcakes. And then let's take Missouri. All right, who'd they lose to? Vanderbilt beat unranked Missouri. Oh, you beat Missouri. They're not ranked. They're 8-4. Oh, you know who they lost to? Alabama, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, playoff teams.
Yeah.
So Vanderbilt beat these, quote, unranked teams. Missouri, LSU, Tennessee. Well, Tennessee's still ranked.
Yes.
They only lost to other ranked teams or national title contenders. So don't tell me those wins are not the equivalent of beating a ranked team. They're not ranked because they lost to other ranked teams. Those teams are good. Those are big wins.
One texter says the argument about the Vegas line doesn't hold up. Vandy is 9-2-1 against the spread. Goes to show you the experts don't believe with believe spelled BELEA.
This is a central part of Vanderbilt's argument is they had no momentum coming into the season. They were
them
unknown.
until week 3 or 4. It was, I believe, after the win against South Carolina that Vanderbilt cracked the top 25 for the first time this season.
But that's the hard part about starting outside of that top 25, that you're really going to have to be convincing every week in your wins to justify them putting you in the college football playoff. That's just the way it is. And to me, Vandy proved that they should be there, but because they started basically at the bottom, now you're working through all these teams. It would be good for Vandy if Alabama loses. So if Alabama loses, I think that'd be a good thing for Vandy.
I think not only do they need to lose, I think they need to lose convincingly.
But even if they lose, they're 10-3. I mean, they're 9-3. I'm not taking a 9-3 Alabama.
But are you going to penalize Alabama for losing in the SEC title game?
They would count. No, the committee, they would count it as a plus if they won. So if you're going to count it as a plus if you win, you got to count it as a minus if you lose, and that would be 3 losses on Alabama's resume.
Let's quickly go to Jeff in Bowling Green on our phone line. Jeff, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hey guys, great show. Listen
Thank
to
you.
it all the time. Hey, listen, I'm just like everyone else. I would love to see Vanderbilt make it, but as far as the Notre Dame argument, Notre Dame actually, and Willie, it's easy to do this, but Notre Dame actually scheduled 2 SEC teams this year. We went to Arkansas, Notre Dame did, and they gave Arkansas the worst beating at home of the season, and they actually got their coach fired because of that.
Right.
I
And
think Notre
Arkansas
Dame won
2-10. Arkansas, the worst
yeah,
team
exactly.
in the
But
SEC.
the point is, they schedule these seasons years that like Alabama is going to play a home and home with Notre Dame in 2 years, right? Who knows how Alabama is going to be that in 2 years? You just don't know what the records of the teams are going to be in the future.
Very true. Very true.
They schedule this stuff out, but Notre Dame scheduled 2 SEC teams this year. I just wanted to state a fact there.
Yeah, I overlooked Arkansas.
Thank you for the call, Jeff.
Arkansas, I would say, is clearly
Mhm.
ended up being the weakest team
Yeah.
in the league. And they're still,
But
they're
they
still
did
pretty
boat
good.
race them. They did both.
Sure they
did. Boat raced them. So, but that's how you can kind of go back and forth with this. Well, this team played this team and they had this many wins. When I look at it, and we're only talking about Vandy here, I think that Vandy deserves to be in. They're going to need some help. I think Alabama's going to have to lose, and somebody else is going to have to lose to really put Vanderbilt in the situation. Because if Alabama loses, then there is this dilemma with who do you put in, Vanderbilt, or do you put somebody else in?
Well, here's an interesting one. To your point, Derek, if Alabama loses the SEC title game, that's 3 losses. They're done, right? Miami is sitting at 10-2. Miami is not even in the ACC title game. So that actually probably works to their benefit, because what would happen if Miami was in the ACC title game and lost? So Miami actually may be better off not playing in the ACC title game because they're at 10-2.
Yeah.
So
that brings up a whole
Yes.
other discussion
Yes.
of the conference title games.
Yes.
Why do it?
Maybe we can talk about that with Trevor Maddich coming up next. 615-737-1025. Trevor Maddich will join us. We'll talk pretty much everything we've been talking about with Trevor, because he is one of the best in the business. We'll get his expert opinion on everything college football. Coming up next, 615-737-1025. We are presented by Bax Homeworks. Remodeling done right. Get a free estimate at baxhomeworks.com. D. Mace, Vingen and Donick, 1025. The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingen, David James is back at our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Let's go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com, and bring in our friend Trevor Maddich, who is brought to you by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Hi, Trevor. How are you?
Madam, I'm great, man. How are you?
We are all doing well. So bear with me here for a moment. Let's say the college football playoff chairman comes up to you and says, Trevor, I don't want to hear from any of these other loudmouths in that committee. I want to hear from you. I want you to help me make the decision on who deserves to be in the college football playoff. This is a two-part question. What would your elevator pitch be to the CFP committee to include Vanderbilt in the college football playoff? And on the other hand, what would be your elevator pitch to exclude Vanderbilt from the college football playoff?
My elevator pitch to include them would be that they've got 2 losses, all right, but they were both on the road to ranked teams. You know, they lost at Alabama, and that was not a great performance by Vandy. But then they lost by a field goal on the road at Texas, and that's it. They went through the rest of their SEC schedule as undefeated, except for those 2 road teams. So they were great, and then they won at Tennessee. Big win against a rival where I believe Tennessee was favored in that game, either way, it was a close.
They were
close in terms of the spread, but you say Tennessee was favored.
Tennessee was favored by what, 2.5,
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah,
2.5.
Okay, good. Yeah. So that's my elevator pitch for them. I mean, they swept through their SEC schedule except for 2 really difficult road games, and even Texas A&M could not win at Texas. So my elevator pitch against Vandy making it was that, okay, they're competing with other 10-2 teams, and while their losses are better than most of those teams, they also have wins that don't include Georgia because they didn't play Georgia, right? They didn't play Texas A&M. These are some of the best teams in the SEC that they didn't have to face. They didn't play Oklahoma. And so, yeah, they swept through their SEC schedule, but they missed most of the best teams, even though they did face Alabama, Texas, and Tennessee.
Trevor, rank these 3 quarterbacks in how you would vote on them for the Heisman Trophy. Fernando Mendoza, Julian Sayin, and Diego Pavia.
I would put, right now, after the Tennessee game, I would put Diego Pavia at number 1. Vandy is much improved, and I think there's so much attention on Pavia that people don't pay enough attention to how well the defense has been playing and the rest of the offense around Pavia has been. But the fact remains that Pavia still is the heart and soul of this team. He led the team in rushing, I think, 7 out of the 12 games this year. And so it's not just that he's getting it done with his arm. And then his superpower of being able to extend drives, keep his defense on the sideline while they're wearing down the opposing defense. His ability to convert 3rd and 4th down is almost magical. And I think you put all those things together, and it's not just that he has elevated them on the field, but he has also elevated Vandy's program into the culture of college football and the culture locally of Nashville. And the Heisman is supposed to go to the most outstanding college football player, not the best quarterback on the best team, although that's what happens a lot. But I think that from a standpoint of most outstanding on the field and what he's done to elevate the program, after I think a Heisman game against Tennessee, I would say Diego Pavia should be the first consideration if I had a vote, which I don't because I moved to Tennessee and there's no votes available in the South.
Well, he proved in that Tennessee game that his name should be elevated with Mendoza and Sain as far as candidates to win the Heisman Trophy. Now, back on Vandy as far as their playoff chances, what needs to happen for Vandy to secure space? Because they did what they needed to do. They won big in Knoxville, and they showed that they were the better team in a powerhouse in the SEC. But beyond that, what else needs to happen for Vandy to get in?
Well, the way the rankings are stacked right now, Derek, I think they'd have to have a spaceship come down from outer space and abduct several teams in front of them, because you've got to be in the top 10 this year in order to make it, because there are 2 conference champions that will be among the 5 highest ranked that will come from outside the top 12. And so 11 and 12 in the final ranking won't be in the playoff. They'll get bounced out by those 2 conference champions moving up. So you got to be in the top 10. And so would Alabama, be supplanted by Vanderbilt? Well, no, because Alabama beat Vanderbilt. But what about Notre Dame? Well, you can make a good case that Vanderbilt should be in instead of Notre Dame, but Notre Dame's at number 9 in their ranking last week. Vandy at number 14, and they may move up after the Tennessee win. We'll see. There's not a lot of space to move up, but even if you think that Vandy is better than Notre Dame, and Vandy had that great win against Tennessee while Notre Dame beat Stanford in the final week of the regular season, the thing is, the committee has already baked all that into the cake. In other words, the committee has already said that Notre Dame is clearly better in their eyes than Vanderbilt, and Notre Dame did nothing to take that opinion away from the committee. And Vanderbilt, even though they won at Tennessee, there's just no space to move up. Same way with Ole Miss. I mean, the committee might think that Ole Miss won't be the same team with all the coaching upheaval in the playoffs as they were in the regular season, but they're not supposed to really do that unless they see it. But even so, I don't think that Vandy would jump over Ole Miss. So from the standpoint of what needs to happen, I don't think at this point there's anything that can really happen, because if Alabama loses in the SEC championship game, and let's say the committee drops them from 10 lower than that, you've got Miami sitting there at number 12 who beat Notre Dame, and there's a bit of a firestorm nationally for the committee, because both Notre Dame and Miami are 10-2. They both have similar strength of schedule, similar strength of record, and yet Miami is at number 9 in the playoff. Notre Dame's number 9 in the playoff. Miami right now is sitting at number 12 outside the playoff. And I think Miami will get the benefit of the doubt over Vanderbilt in that situation, because Miami beat a team that the committee will put in the playoff. So it goes back to, what does Vanderbilt need to do to make it? And absent spaceship alien abduction of teams ahead of them, I just don't see it happening.
But it's to me, and we've discussed this, Trevor, talk with Trevor Maddox, ESPN. We've discussed this. I think a lot of it, or some of it, has to do with brand bias, because you can't tell me, at least, that if Vandy has Notre Dame's schedule and they win the same amount of games, and Notre Dame have Vandy's schedule, there's no way that Notre Dame will be in the college football playoff. But I just believe a lot of it has to do, or some of it has to do with brand bias. And when is it going to come to a point where, because the college landscape has changed in sports, especially football, whereas, just because you have that brand doesn't mean that a team like Vandy can't win a national championship. So with that being said, are they being penalized because they don't have the brand, you believe?
I think you can make that case. Notre Dame, since they lost their 2 opening games to 2 really good teams, I mean, Miami and Texas A&M by a combined 4 points, they've been dominant the rest of the way. But the thing is, their strength of schedule right now, Notre Dame, is 42nd, in the nation. And that includes Miami and Texas A&M. If you took those 2 out of their strength of schedule calculation, that strength of schedule would go way down from there, because even though Notre Dame has dominated everybody they've played since then, you can't say that they've really played, with the exception of USC, anybody that's really all that great. And so Vandy, on the other hand, I think you can make a case, is better. Vandy's strength of schedule is 22nd, much better than Notre Dame's. And Vandy's strength of record is also better than Notre Dame. Strength of record is a metric that describes how an average top 25 team would do against the schedule that you play. And Vandy's is better than Notre Dame's. And so, other than looking at Notre Dame and saying, I think Notre Dame's just a better team, there's no metric that I've seen that tells me that Notre Dame should be ranked ahead of Vandy. Now, I think that, from a standpoint of the committee, they don't, in my experience with them over the years, they don't say this team has a better Q factor. This team is a bigger brand. I think it would be better for ratings. So let me put the better ratings team in and keep the lesser ratings team out. That never crosses their mind. But I think from a human standpoint, there might be a bias that, hey, Notre Dame looks really good. And Vandy also looks really good, but Notre Dame is just a pretty good. And so I think that's one of the things that Vandy, I think, has against them. It's not intentional by the committee, in my opinion, but I think it does happen. And when you look at just the stats and different things, defense and offense and running and passing and all that, these are very similar teams. I don't see a real reason to put Notre Dame ahead of Vandy the way that the committee has.
Trevor Maddich is with us from ESPN. Trevor, here's another philosophical question that I'm going to throw at you, because you made the analogy, and it's a good one, that you've seen this committee show you what they're up to each week. They don't have to do it that way. They choose to do it that way. And you've got a colleague like Heather Dinich who's really good at interpreting each week and saying, well, the committee did this last week, so that's looking ahead to this week. This is what to expect. Do you think that's the best way to do it? You were talking about the cake has already been baked, sort of. Why not bake the cake from scratch today or the last couple of days after everybody has played the 12 games? To me, that's what Vanderbilt would like them to do. Take a new look at everything. Now that everybody's played, forget about what everybody looked like in the preseason or week 4, week 8, week 10. Let's look at what everybody's done now. To me, that's a better way to go. But, of course, am I looking at it through Vanderbilt's lens? Probably. So what do you think?
I think most people would agree with you about that, Willie. But I think overall, when you look at how the committee needs to do that, do me a favor real quick. Ask me that again in one sentence, because there's a couple things there, and I want to know your most important thing.
Okay, the most important thing is, should you now look at everybody from scratch today, bake the cake from scratch, as opposed to bake it gradually over the last however many times they go on Tuesday and tell you what they're doing?
Good. See, that's a great question. And their answer to that would be, we do that anyway. They're supposed to redo the rankings every week as if the other week didn't happen and just do them all over again. That's what they're supposed to do. Of course, it looks like they just slot teams in and then move them up and down whether or not they win. A lot of people think that the committee shouldn't release their ranking until the final ranking. But part of the fun of college football is fighting over the rankings. That's why I like preseason rankings. Of course, preseason rankings are based on very little hard information, but it's a place to start. And then we can talk about what things turned out the way we thought they would, things that turned out differently than we thought they would. It's that. And so I think it's better for college football to have more transparency than less when it comes to the committee. And they're not supposed to have their first ranking and then keep the teams in that order unless they win or lose. They're supposed to tear it up and start over again every week. And if they don't, and it looks like they didn't, then the committee spokesperson is not explaining the way the process works well enough, because that's what they're supposed to do. And Willie, most fans, I think, agree with you.
Do you think that as we move forward with this system, that they should do away with conference championship games?
No, never in a million years. One of the things that makes college football great for a century is the conference championship races. And nationally right now, we're basically locked in on the playoff, but also locked in on how the conference championship race and the conference championship game would affect the playoff. It's all about the playoff, and that's fine. That's good. But most teams aren't going to win the national championship. I mean, for every team in the nation but one, they're either going to win the national championship or they will lose their last game if they're in the playoff, or they will not even make the playoff. And if that's what the standard is, then you're a failure every year unless you're that one. Whereas you've got a conference championship race independent of the playoff, and if you win, you are a champion. They raised the banner. Your name is now in history with your school. I think it's fantastic that conference championships are still honored by the playoff system, where the top 5 highest-ranked conference champions get an automatic berth. Now, Nick Saban has posited that maybe you should get an automatic berth if you're one of the top 5 highest-ranked conference champions only if you're also ranked in the committee's top 15. And I can see that because this year the Group of Five champion is going to be outside the top 15, whoever that is. And it's possible that the ACC champion is 5-loss Duke. Now, if that happens, it's also possible that if JMU wins the Sun Belt, that Duke doesn't make that an ACC champion Duke doesn't make the playoff at all. And that's a whole different discussion because then you'd have two Group of Five, whoever wins the American and JMU if they win the Sun Belt. But if JMU doesn't win the Sun Belt, if Troy beats them with, I think, 4 losses, and if Duke wins the ACC, then you're looking at a 5-loss team as a conference champion getting an automatic berth into the playoff, and I love it. Because
I do too,
keeps
Trevor.
The relevance of conference championships.
Of course you love it.
I do too, says the host born in Durham, North Carolina. Trevor Maddich has been our guest on D-Mace, Vingen, and Donick. He joins us every week, and he is brought to you by the Houston Clinic Orthopedics when experience matters. Trevor, great stuff as always. We'll catch up next week.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
615-737-1025. Also, a programming note, a little birdie named Chase McCabe has informed me that Clark Lee will join our program tomorrow at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock tomorrow.
4 o'clock.
Very nice. Very
So-
nice.
So we will have Clark Lee on the program. We will get his reaction to the latest CFP rankings. That's tomorrow at 4. 615-737-1025. We'll react to Trevor. Barry Trotz coming up at the top of the hour. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingen, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5. The game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Barry Trotz will join us in roughly 15 minutes live here at Bridgestone Arena, where the Predators will host the Calgary Flames. Tonight at 7, puck drop at 7, pregame at 6 with Max Hers right here on 102.5. The game. Willie, you seemed a little surprised by Trevor's response to your question about the eliminating conference championship games. You seemed a bit taken aback by how strongly Trevor feels about conference championship games.
No, I'm not. I'm not taking it back. Trevor is going to give his opinion. Because I think he makes a really good point that, someday when you look back and you say, I played college football, well, where'd you play? I played at so-and-so, and we won the X championship that year. That's more likely to be the answer than, we played in the college football playoff. So there is something to it, but it does create a lot of confusion. And the other issue is, these conference championship games, there's these huge leagues where you have 16 teams and you only play half of the teams in your league. It's hard to really do a true conference championship. Like, to me, the most meaningful conference championship is like a high school championship where you have probably 8 teams that make sense. They're in your area. And these are the teams you play against, and you determine a championship. Everybody plays everybody, and then you determine how to do it in the postseason. That's meaningful for sure. I think it's less meaningful the way they do it in college football, but I get Trevor's point for sure. But it for the purposes of the selection committee, you got all kinds of issues, right? Like Derek's one he's been bringing up all week is if Alabama loses, there's going to be that whole, well, you can't penalize them. They made the championship game. Oh, but they have 3 losses, and we can't bring in a 3-loss team. It's 2 direct adages that we've had for decades. You can't get in if they've got more losses than the other team. Oh, but they were in the championship game. You can't penalize them for being in the championship game. Something's got to give.
I mean, Duke is in the ACC title game at 7-5 with a 6-2 record in the ACC, tied with, I think, 4 other teams at 6-2 and some random tiebreaker. Duke.
Do you know what the tiebreaker was?
Strength of conference opponent schedule. I don't know.
I certainly don't know.
All I know is I got the email from Duke saying, we're in the title game. Get your tickets now. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I didn't think that was going to happen. But yeah, I mean.
But I think this is the worst. This is probably one of the worst case scenarios for the committee. Having say if Duke wins, and listen, if they win, they deserve to be in.
I mean, Duke just got crushed by Virginia a couple of weeks ago. So
it's like
I don't have high hopes for it.
If they win and they get in, it's just like, seriously, like this is what we're doing. I know they get in because they're conference champion, but there has to be a point where you look at it and say, man, you lost 5 games. I know you won a conference, but no, you still can't get in.
Right, and I'm hypocritical about the other thing too, because for years I've always been like, Give one of the quote little guys a chance. Leave a spot. If you're going to expand, then carve out a spot. And they have, right?
Or your Tulanes or your South Florida.
Right. So somebody's going to get that spot.
But
now that my team, Vanderbilt's 10-2, and that's one of the spots. Like, get those guys out. Get the little guys out of there. Come on.
But that was the old football. New football is something different.
Yes. Jim in Springfield on our text line says, one thing I heard people talking about is what happens if BYU wins the Big 12. That will steal a spot in the playoff from somebody. We did talk about that earlier. BYU playing Texas Tech in the Big 12 title game. BYU crushed by Texas Tech a few weeks ago. But if BYU pulls off the upset, then I still think that Texas Tech gets in. So I agree with Jim that I do think BYU would be a big stealer. Excuse me. Sonny says, do you think creating these massive leagues has made things worse for these rankings /playoff?
I think the minute that the SEC took Oklahoma and Texas, I said, this is what's going to happen. And this is what's happened. Yeah. Is they beat each other up, and it's getting plenty of teams in, but it clouds everything.
Well, I think once they open it up to 16, will it still cloud some things? Yes. But I do believe at that point, you'll be in if you really deserve to be in with 16 teams. It's just now, and it's crazy because we've touted the SEC as being the best conference in America. but we penalize them for being the best conference in America. It's like you can't have your cake and eat it too. Like if you want to say they're the best conference, well, treat them like the best conference. And Vandy played a tough schedule within the best conference.
It didn't seem possible at the start of last year, and definitely at the end of last year, that you would have a 10-2 team not get in.
Yeah.
It just seemed like, well, 10-2 in the SEC, with a good schedule should do it.
Well, it was the whole thing last year, right? With Alabama being 9-3
Yes.
and SMU being 10-2,
Yeah.
right?
Alabama, South Carolina, and Ole Miss. Is that right?
I think so.
All of them were sitting there with 3 losses.
Last year?
Yeah. And there was a debate on whether one of those teams should have gotten in,
Well,
as opposed to, I think, SMU.
If and when the college football playoff expands, there are going to be 3 lost teams included.
Maybe.
I think despite the fact that Texas has 3 losses and one of them was to Florida, I do think Texas has a strong case. I don't anticipate it happening for Texas, but I think at 9-3 they played a tough schedule. They went to Ohio State to open the season. They gave Ohio State its toughest game of the season. They've beaten some good teams. They did lose to a really bad one, and that should count against them.
I think that's going to count against them.
Yes.
And I think that's the debate. This is Vanderbilt's argument versus Texas' argument. Texas is saying we had the guts to play at Ohio State.
And Vanderbilt says, we didn't lose to Florida.
100%. And what is Vanderbilt's argument? We just laid it out there before Trevor came on.
Yes.
That while Missouri and Tennessee and LSU are not ranked, those teams only lost to playoff caliber teams.
Yeah.
Only losses. They did not lose to none of the 3 of those teams lost to a Florida.
Yeah.
No.
And Vanderbilt certainly didn't lose to a Florida.
Last year
I'm preparing to be aggravated when I watch this.
It will. It's going to aggravate you.
You can't. There'll be 2 or 3 teams that were worthy that aren't going to get in. And Vanderbilt very well could be one of those teams.
You're going to have an argument for, against the team, 12, 11, and 10, or you're going to have an argument for, the teams that was right outside of that. And Vanderbilt just may be one of those teams right outside of that. And, they have just as much of an argument as an Alabama who, even if they win, they're in. If they lose, then are they in or they're out? They more than likely are probably out. But I think they have just as good an argument as Texas, as Alabama, or as any other SEC school, because what they did was they went and they had 2 losses away, but they pretty much handled everybody else. I know there were some close ones in there with Missouri and South Carolina, but when they needed to play big, they played big. When Diego needed to play big, he played big, especially toward the latter part of the season.
Ricky says a 5-loss team getting in is an atrocity if that happens. Should be the 12 best teams regardless of conference champions. Normally, Ricky, I would agree with you. But you're talking about a specific 5-loss team. So my bias is showing I think it would be great for a 5-loss team to get in as a conference champion. But generally, I agree with you.
Well,
if they get in, they may just get boat raced.
They will. It's not they may, they will.
It'll be a Notre Dame. Who was that? Notre Dame, Alabama, where Notre Dame just got boat raced.
Last year, I think, was it SMU?
SMU
went
Clemson.
To Penn.
Yeah.
Wait,
no,
Penn State or Clemson?
It was Clemson.
Clemson got beat pretty bad.
Yeah. Penn State
boat raced somebody too. Clemson and SMU played the ACC. They played some good games. I forget which one went where. Texas. SMU's got whipped by Texas,
lost 38-10 to
Texas.
SMU lost 38-10 to Penn State.
Penn State.
Yes.
Oh.
And who did Texas rip in the first game?
Texas beat Clemson 38-24.
Yeah, so both showed you the weakness of the ACC.
Yes. So.
But let's look at the perspective of other leagues in the SEC, where so many of the teams in the league, soccer. I mean, just spin the wheel and pick a sport. Baseball, men's basketball had 14 in last year. Women's basketball is always really deep. Golf, soccer. This is the issue with football. You have 16 programs that are all capable of having a lot of success. And in other sports, it's easier to get into the postseason, I think, than it is in football. And so this is going to be a problem every year, I think.
615-737-1025. We will pick up the college football playoff conversation in just a little bit. But coming up next, Predators general manager Barry Trotz will join us here at Barrel House for our weekly chat. He will be joining us momentarily, so stick around. Barry Trotz coming up next, 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025. The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. Pleased to be joined, as we are every week, by Predators GM Barry Trotz. Hi, Barry. How are you?
I'm good.
How was your Thanksgiving?
It was lonely in Detroit and Chicago.
That's true. That's true.
But it was good.
Good. Glad to hear it. So you were quoted in ESPN in the story that published last Tuesday that the next 7 or 8 games would be a good indicator of how you proceed. And since you gave those comments, the team's played 4 games. You're 2-2. You lost a tough one at home last week to Florida, but you've been more competitive in the past 3 games. So how have the past 4 games influenced your decision-making process at all?
I think when you make that statement, I want to see how the team would respond. I think Ryan O'Reilly, I just saw one of his interviews. When you're not going good, bad things happen, and to me, that was great leadership by him. He's so correct and very accurate for where we are. Let's face it, we're not where we want to be, and when you're not where you want to be, then you start making the changes necessary to do that. So obviously we're meeting every day. We're planning. We're looking. I'm working the phones, getting a lot of phone calls. Obviously, where teams are after the Thanksgiving break. That's sort of an area where teams start calling. Been a little bit more quiet the first 20 teams. You're going to get teams that know where they are right now and say, "Hey, we're good. This is the direction we're going in." You're going to have a bunch of teams going, "We don't know where we are because we're still in the mix and we don't know how good we're going to be." And so we're just going to. You're getting a call, but there's not a lot of substance to it. And then you get teams that know where they're going to be, and they're saying, "Hey, we're looking to add this." And so it's my job is to field those calls and see what teams are looking for. And if they have anything of substance come our way, then I've got to make some evaluations on what is offered and good deal, bad deal, something we want to do or something we don't want to do.
You're playing a team tonight that is in a similar position in Calgary. And I'm wondering if as you broach these phone calls, as you take stock of what you may or may not do, there are other teams like the Flames, for example. The Canucks have reportedly let people know that they are looking to sell. Do you look at their rosters and say, well, hey, they've got the same type of players available that we may have available? And does that enter into your calculus? Like, I need to act perhaps before another contending team calls one of those teams, gives them a deal that I could have, if that makes sense.
I would probably say, unless there's a pinpointed player that a team calls about, they're going to call all the teams. Mm-hmm. They're going to call if there's a certain player that we have, similar to Calgary, for instance, tonight. They may make a call and say, "Hey, what are you looking for?" "I'm looking for that player. What's your ask?" And they're just evaluating the same way in reverse of what we're doing. So, until there's some movement, I think you're going to get a lot of calls. You're going to field them, and you're going to assess every potential transaction. If the best way to say it.
You mentioned Ryan O'Reilly earlier. There was a report last week from TSN, I believe it came out right after we got off the phone with you, that the asking price for Ryan O'Reilly is a first-round pick plus an A-level prospect. Would you consider that an accurate description of what you're looking for Ryan O'Reilly?
I would love that if, that wasn't my ask. Just let people know. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff that's out in the marketplace right now that is not accurate at all. But it's great reading and it's great social media and it gets everybody their hits and all that. And but I would say that Ryan O'Reilly is a very valuable player to the Nashville Predators, not only on the ice but culturally and all that. That the ask is definitely in that ballpark for sure. And that to me, the difficult question I know that you're going to ask is how do you weigh that?
Right.
And it's very difficult. So if you set a certain price and you get it, then you have to live by it a lot of times. But that wasn't something that was put out by me. That was from someone else. I have my price and on certain things, and the people I've talked to that or called me and asked about him, I've given them a certain price tag, if you will.
So bear with me here for a moment. Barry Trotz is with us. So when the Titans were approaching the NFL trade deadline, a lot of us wanted the Titans to trade Jeffrey Simmons because the Titans are in a similar position as the Predators, and Jeffrey Simmons, as the best player on the team, probably represented the Titans' best chance to get a premium asset that could help kickstart their retool, their rebuild, etc. They said he's off limits, and after the trade deadline passed, the GM Mike Borgonzi said, we never even considered trading Jeffrey Simmons because of how important we think he is to reestablishing the culture for the Tennessee Titans. So I'm curious, are O'Reilly's intangibles, because I view O'Reilly through the same prism with you as the Titans did with Jeffrey Simmons. So are O'Reilly's intangibles more valuable to you than the premium assets you could receive by trading him?
I think that's I can't really answer that right now. And I can tell you why is that Ryan's wherever he is, if he's with us or somewhere else, and I have no intentions right now to move him today or anything like that. We haven't even had that discussion. What I've said to him is let's get winning hockey games. That's it, plain and simple. So that a lot of the noise is out there, all that we haven't had any discussions. And the best way to say this is, I said everything's on the table, and I have to do that for our ownership. I have to do it for our room. I have to do it for the fans. I have to do it. I have to see what's out there. Everything's on the table, and when I say that, I sincerely mean that. It doesn't mean that I'm going to move Brian O'Reilly. It doesn't mean I'm going to move this guy, but I have to listen because we're in no position not to listen.
And Barry, I think what I think of when Adam asked that question, I think of a guy like Luke Evangelista, who clearly is benefiting by playing with a great player like Ryan O'Reilly. Not only what's happening when they're out there on the ice, but the influence that Ryan O'Reilly has on a young player like Evangelista. So that's part of, I think, what you have to consider, right?
Absolutely. Well, here's the things that people don't know, and I'm going to take this rumor. I said one of the media heads out there said that our room is toxic.
Yes.
And that is a bunch of bullshit. I'm just telling you, whoever I know who said it, it is bull. And our guys get along quite well with each other. It's not toxic. It's a good locker room. I can give you an example. And I think Willie goes to the gym once in a while.
I do.
He saw it on Thanksgiving. We had a day, we were playing in between. We didn't have any ice, and we had Ryan O'Reilly and Stamkos and the young group in the gym, unsolicited on a day off.
Nobody told them they had to be there.
No one told them they had to be there. The group went together there. Willie was part of a dinner. How was the dinner? It was great.
Yeah, it was,
we had laughs and we had fun, and the guys hung around. If it was toxic, they wouldn't hang around. They hung around. We had fun, and we won a hockey game the next night. And so the stuff that's out there, I hate when it's just out there and it's not truth. So I just want to clear that up because it's not. We're just not. We haven't been a good hockey team. Good enough hockey team to get enough wins. But we have some really good people in there.
I do want to ask you one other thing about that report that you're referencing from Frank Saravalli. You mentioned no toxicity in the dressing room. You're not getting any sense that there's any toxicity emanating from the dressing room up the ladder to management, ownership, anything like that.
No, I think I got a pretty good relationship. Guys can come up and talk to me and have their opinions and their thoughts. But I can tell you this: if we sat down with our leadership group, they would say, hey, collectively, we got to just be better. I mean, we lost some games. I look at the Winnipeg. We win that game. We're 2 points behind Winnipeg. We'd have won that game the other night. We're within a striking distance of Winnipeg, and we didn't win the hockey game. They just had a game, I think the night before in Carolina, and they got handed a tough loss, and they got called out, and so they came. There was nothing in that game, and there wasn't a lot happening between either teams. We gave up 2 goals. One was a a little bit of a dive in off a line change where depth is, the younger player took a little bit of deeper dive, created a little bit of a 3-on-2. They scored on that. The other one was on a protocol and a controlled forecheck. Could have probably had the save there a little bit. Didn't get that, and we're down in the hole 2-0. We battled back, and I felt like we were coming on. When it was 3-2, I felt we were going to get that.
Then the
thing
penalty
right.
gets called.
The penalty gets called, and then that's
Debatable call.
Yeah, they're all debatable up there.
I said it. You didn't have to say it.
But at the same time, you see that they're right. We're right there, but we just can't get on the right side of enough wins, and that's part of the process. I mean, I look at get a glimpse into the future. I mean, you get the number of guys. We have 6 rookies, I think, playing this year. I can't remember the Preds having 6 rookies, and we'll go through the filter through the lineup, and I'm guaranteeing you before the end of the year, you're going to have 10 or 11, and that's a great position to be in, where you feel comfortable with calling up 10, 11 guys. You look into the future. Matthew Wood started in Milwaukee. He's on our team. He's going to be. Looks like he's going to be fine. He's going to find his way. He's going to be good this week and maybe not so good the next week. And hopefully he just keeps building. You're seeing in Luke Evangelista, that sort of doggedness and that confidence, that swagger that Luke had. He sort of lost it a little bit last year. And I think he's getting it back.
I was going to ask you specifically about him because I am seeing that, and the numbers show it, right? His last dozen games or so, he's producing. So what is it besides I think when you play well, you get that swagger. But what are the things that he's worked on? Because obviously it was a long negotiation to work out what the next thing is. But now he's starting to show why.
Well, I think 2 things. He really worked hard on the skating. I mean, that's the one. A little bit of the one hang up with Luke is that his skating. Get separation in this league is really hard. It's getting faster and faster. It's getting younger and younger, and it's hard to get separation. And Luke he would slow it down a little bit, and they lose some opportunities. I think now he's got that. He's worked on it all summer, put in the time. It's starting to show, and he's got the doggedness that he had sort of lost a little bit. And that's part of confidence too, and that's coming together. You saw on the flip side, Svetch. I thought, he felt really good coming in the camp. Didn't get off to get any production early, and then all of a sudden, he's starting to wonder and doubt himself. He got a big goal. I think get a little bit of the confidence back. You look at Matthew, Schaefer. That's one of the when we started peeling off guys as part of the Ekholm trade. You look at the Ekholm trade. It's been a few years now. You're starting to see Reed Schaefer starting to play his first game.
It seems like it was a long time ago with that trade, man. You're just now seeing Reed Schaefer.
You're seeing Reed Schaefer. You're going to see Tanner Mollendijk. That's the other piece that was in that. So, going forward here, that's why I'm trying to buy some time for young guys to do that. We talked about that blend where they don't have to take the whole load on night in and night out. And hopefully they can get some better matchups. They can get their confidence. They can get a little bit of swagger. Because if you lose your swagger, it takes time. That's also probably happened with, we can say Stammer and Marchie and some of the older guys. When you're not when you're scoring, you're feeling it, and Stammer's starting to score. So when he starts to score, he starts to get his swagger back, and then all of a sudden things go. Marchie, he's been in and out of the lineup with some injuries. He can get his swagger back going. I mean, he's been a guy that, in his whole career, both of them, they have been streaky guys. When they get on a hot streak, they go. I mean, I look at Marchie last year. I don't think he had much for points in the last 20. Sort of blending in with you guys, the last couple of years. But the first 20 games, I don't think Marchie had much production.
Right, last year, yeah.
Then all of a sudden he went on a tear, and he ended up with I think 56, 57 points. I mean, you really look in the league, there's not that many guys that were able to do that last year. You always think, well, you had 56, 57 points. That doesn't seem like a lot, but you really look at it through the league, there's not as many guys as you think have 56, 57 points, whatever he had. So when these guys get into a little bit of a rhythm and a hot streak, I mean, they could put up multiple points and get
That was D Mace's fault, by the way.
That was D.
Derek is okay.
That's we call that a fumble on
Yeah.
D Mace. He never fumbled with the football, but he just fumbled some equipment.
That usually is the sound when I was coaching, when I didn't really
Didn't like how your team.
when I wanted to move some furniture. I didn't like the way we played. There was some furniture moving around.
Well, let me ask you, Barry, about a guy that's sort of in a category of himself. We talk a lot about the veteran players that you need to sort of carry the load, and then these young guys who are just starting to get it. Nick Blankenberg is like he's the unicorn, right? He's a guy that's never had anything given to him or never everything guaranteed. He's a guy that you will have to make a decision on contractually at some point.
Yeah.
So what are you seeing? Everybody seems to be falling in love with this guy.
Well, it's pretty hard not to. You look at Nick, his whole career. If you really followed his career, he'll tell you, he was out of the Detroit area or the Michigan area. Wanted to go to the University of Michigan. Wanted to play junior, wasn't good enough to play junior. He sort of got, you're too small, you can't do this. He went out to Alberta, I believe, and they put him on defense. He was a forward. They put him on defense. He had great success. Then the University of Michigan, I think, came back and said, "Hey, why don't you come on as a walk-on and partial scholarship, that type of thing." And he, all of a sudden, a year or two later, he's the captain of the team, and still, undersized, undervalued, and everybody's doubted it. Nick all the way through, and he's just fought through it. I mean, even coming into this year, I said to Nick, I said, let's start out in a hotel. Don't get a place.
And that's got to be hard, right? Because he played pretty well last year.
And he played great for us last year. But that you were adding pieces on defense, and I said, let's just play this out. And he didn't play much at the start of the year, but every day he gives you everything he has. Every game when he steps on, he plays like it's going to be his last game, and that's culturally. That's a great fit, and I like the fact that Bruno and the coaching staff are rewarding him for producing. It's not where he was; it's where he is now. And are you getting the job done? And he has been. And there's some times when the size comes into the play, but I'll tell you what, there's so many good things in his game, and for the fans who watch and you see Nick killing penalties. I mean, he's playing defense for us 5-on-5, and then all of a sudden we're killing a penalty. He's playing forward, and I don't know if people necessarily.
It takes me a second to notice it. Wait a minute. There's two other defensemen on the ice.
Yeah.
What are we doing? He's playing forward.
And he, like you say, he's a little bit of a unicorn because it doesn't matter where you put him. He's going to give you a max effort. And I'll tell you what, if you come and watch the Preds every night, that's, you want us to win. I want to win. But if you're getting max effort, the efforts of Blankenberg and guys like that, I think you can live with that. I can live with that as a GM, is that you're getting max effort from everybody. And some nights you're not going to have it. This with Willie, the travel and the number of games. You see how many guys are getting hurt. You don't have it every night, so you got to find a way to manage it. And in the nights that you have it, you got to use it to your advantage and produce. And Nick plays with his hair on fire every game, and that's what you love about him. Never complains about a thing. You never know if he's hurt or not, because he won't tell you, I don't think, because that's just the way he is. He's a special young man.
Barry Trotz has been our guest on D Mace, Vingan, and Donick. Of course, he joins us every Tuesday during hockey season. Barry, as always, great to see you. It's been a few weeks since we've seen you. Enjoy the game tonight. Good luck.
All right, thank you.
615-737-1025. We will react to what Barry Trotz had to say. Hopefully, Derek doesn't break anything between now and the next segment. But we will react to what Barry had to say, and we'll take your thoughts as well. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan. We are presented by Bax Homeworks. Remodeling done right. Get a free estimate now at baxhomeworks.com. Live the game. There we go. There we go. That's much better. I think. There we go.
Yeah.
Technical difficulties. We're good now. We're good now. Max showed up, and now everything's just gone haywire. Okay. Well.
3-second muting.
All right. Well, you'll be here at 6, Max.
Max,
so-
you're not the producer.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's
Get outta
right.
here.
David says you're not the producer, so get out of here. An interesting conversation with Predators GM Barry Trotz. The one thing I took away from that, it sounds like he has set, these are my words, not his.
Yes.
He has set what I would consider an astronomical price for Ryan O'Reilly in a trade.
That's what it sounded to me.
There was a report from TSN, Pierre LeBrun on TSN Insider Trading. It came out, I want to say, like right after we talked to Trotz last week. He reported that the asking price for O'Reilly is likely a first-round pick and an A-level prospect. And now Trotz did not say that's what it's going to be, but it does sound like that is what it's going to take at bare minimum to pry Ryan O'Reilly out of Nashville. But here's the thing I like about Trotz's approach to this, Derek. I brought up the Jeffrey Simmons situation because I do see a lot of the Jeffrey Simmons situation with Ryan O'Reilly and the Predators. We talked for weeks about the Titans should trade Jeffrey Simmons because he is their best chance to get premium assets to help kickstart this rebuild. And the reports were Jeffrey Simmons is off limits. And Mike Borgonzi said after the trade deadline, we never considered it. We want Jeffrey Simmons here to help us rebuild this culture. And Ryan O'Reilly fits a lot of the same criteria for the Predators. He's a winner, Stanley Cup winner, Conn Smythe Trophy winner, and there's a lot of interest in Ryan O'Reilly. GMs would be dumb GMs of contending teams would be dumb not to consider trading for Ryan O'Reilly. But what I do like about what Trotz said versus what the Titans did is that Trotz did not close the door on a Ryan O'Reilly trade. He did not say, I am not even considering it, which is what the Titans were reportedly doing, and then Borgonzi confirmed we never considered it. So I do appreciate the fact that Trotz, as much as he admires O'Reilly, is not shutting the door on trading him if push comes to shove.
Well, no, because he understands the position his team is in right now, and him as the GM. It's not like they are a team that is in the mix or leading their division, and they can make proclamations like the Titans did. We're not trading Jeffrey Simmons or we're not trading Ryan O'Reilly no matter what. He's not even on the table. If they were, atop their division, then yeah, they probably could say something like that. But they're not. They're in a phase that, and you said it, you explained it to him, you're sort of in this phase that the Tennessee Titans are in right now. And he understands that the quickest way to get to where he wants to go and where this team's going to ultimately want to be is to have an open discussion about, players, not closing the door on any particular player, saying, hey, listen, we are not a good team right now. We're not where we want to be. We haven't been for the last 2 years. How can I sit here and say, I'm not talking to anybody about anyone on my team? I'm not in the place. As a GM, I have to do what's best for this organization. And Barry said this a long time ago. He said he's always going to do what's best for the organization. Now, it may be some hard choices to keep or trade away a guy, but he always is going to do what's best for the organization. And what's best for the organization is not closing the door on any potential trade out there because your team is not in a space where you can do that.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to go about it. I don't think anybody should be off limits. Now, there are players who are off limits because it's up to them. Yeah. Roman Josi has a full no movement clause. Philip Forsberg, UC Saros, Steven Stamkos. If they don't want to go anywhere, that's up to them. They can make themselves off limits. But for anybody who doesn't have that protection, nobody should be off limits. So that includes Ryan O'Reilly, who does not have trade protection in his contract. But as has been reported by Elliot Freeman and others, for the past year plus, the Predators are treating O'Reilly as if he does because of the respect that Trotz has for O'Reilly. So I like the fact that Trotz did not take the Borgonzi route and say, I value Ryan O'Reilly too much I don't care if I could get a first-round pick for Ryan O'Reilly. I'm not doing it. I think the way he's going about it, based on how he explained it to us, is the way that he should go about it. He also staunchly defended the culture of the organization. There, just to catch you guys up, also, because a few people have pointed, this is unrelated. A few people have pointed this out on our text line. There's some sort of fan above us here at Barrel House that's rattling. I wish we could do something about it. I don't have an engineering degree. I don't know how to turn it off, so we apologize for that. But there have been a couple of reports from Frank Saravalli. Frank Saravalli is an NHL insider in the same vein as Elliot Freeman or Pierre LeBrun, Chris Johnston. He works for Victory Plus now, but he worked for TSN. He used to cover the Philadelphia Flyers a long time ago. A really plugged-in reporter. I have a lot of respect for Frank Saravalli. He's well connected in the NHL. He's had a couple of reports over the past month where he has described the atmosphere in this organization as quote-unquote toxic. It's toxic from top to bottom, he has said. So that's what Trotz was responding to. We asked him about it last week. We asked for his response. Trotz said, I've talked to my leadership group. I don't get that sense. But you heard Trotz. We didn't tell Trotz he could curse, but we'll allow it. We'll allow it.
Just for this one.
Just for this one. Everybody gets one. Everybody gets one. But he was so adamant that things are okay that he cursed on the air. So look, I am not in the dressing room the same way I used to be. When you're in the dressing room every day, you can pick up on things, but Trotz is claiming he has seen no signs of toxicity. He was focused specifically on the dressing room. That's why I asked him, you're not getting any vibes from the dressing room up the ladder, that there's any sort of toxicity between management and the locker room, ownership in the locker room, and he denied that as well.
I think a lot of times, and I'm not saying whether, the report is true or not. Obviously, Barry vehemently denied it. He gave some examples about guys, coming together and working out together and eating together and just breaking bread and all that other good stuff. Just that camaraderie. It's hard because when you say a toxic environment, what does that mean? Like, what do you mean toxic? Is there arguing going on? Is it this coach don't believe in that coach? Is it the GM don't? So when you say a toxic culture, what are you talking about? And I'm not saying that his report is true or false, but when you throw something out there, it's almost like the minute you say toxic, you don't have to explain. It's just like it's a toxic environment and you don't explain, well, what's toxic about it? I know they're losing, and things get tough when they're in, and I've been on some losing teams, and a lot of it, basically each time has been because of injury, but it gets tough in the locker room. It really does, because nobody wants to lose in the building. Nobody. So what may look toxic to you may not even be toxic. It just, guys are upset we're losing. Are you not supposed to be upset and a little perturbed by losing?
Here's one theory I have. Where that may be, where maybe it could be construed as toxic. I've said this before. I have a hard time imagining that Steven Stamkos would have signed here if he knew that this was what was going to happen. Steven Stamkos had other offers, probably, the same with Jonathan Marchessault and Brady Shea. They had lots of offers in free agency last summer. They chose the Predators. I know they got paid, right? But I can't imagine. Let's focus on Stamkos specifically. Okay. I can't imagine that Steven Stamkos, he's won multiple Stanley Cup championships. He's already going to the Hall of Fame. If he wanted to just ride out the sunset on some team somewhere, doesn't matter, he could do that. But I can't imagine that Steven Stamkos would have signed with the Predators if he did not think they had a legitimate chance to win. So is there part of Steven Stamkos? Again, this is complete conjecture. I'm not reporting anything. I'm trying to figure out what maybe the genesis of this toxicity is. Could Steven Stamkos be like, I signed up for this? This is not what I signed up for. I signed up to win. I did not sign up to be on the worst team in the league 2 years in a row. Like, I'm wondering if that could be part of it. That, again, a complete theory.
But that is, to me, that's not toxic unless it's being discussed every day. Every time you turn around, he's bringing this up. Like,
Yeah.
whoa, I didn't sign up for this. Now, if that is happening, okay, we need to taper that down. Come on, man. You're here now. Let's make the best of it. Maybe if you get a little bit more effort. And I'm not saying that he's not. I'm saying if things like that was happening, it's like if you take another step, and you do a little bit more, maybe things will change. But when you're losing, it's tough all the way around, especially when you have guys that have come here that have been at other organizations and have had success, and they're in their latter part of their careers, and they come to a team that they believe is on the precipice of winning and winning big, and then all of a sudden the last 2 seasons are seasons you want to forget. So I understand that can be hard. Hell, it was hard for me in New York when I got there with the Jets. They had just come off an AFC championship game appearance.
Yeah.
The year prior. And I come into a situation and now we're losing.
Yeah.
So I can understand where the frustration, but is it frustration or is it toxic?
Yeah.
Toxicity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it frustration or toxicity? Which one is it?
You have been, I'm sure you have I'm sure during your illustrious career, you had teammates who were oil and water, and
Of
you
course.
can sense toxicity when you see it.
Oh,
Two
yeah.
guys just can't get along. They can't even be in the same room as each other. Again, I'm not in the dressing room every day like I used to be. So like I can't tell you what it's like. That's a better question for Alex Doherty of the Tennessean, for example. But look, I understand that Barry Trotz is going to defend his team. And just because he says it's not happening doesn't mean it's not happening. I understand that. But he laid it out there. He claims it's not happening. The Predators are in a bad situation. The other thing, too, that I thought was interesting, and the point I was trying to make with him is they're playing a team tonight in Calgary that's right above them in the standings, 31st in the standings. The conversations we're having here, they're having in Calgary. The Vancouver Canucks, same thing. So there are players in all of those teams that top teams are looking to poach. So my question was, if you're Trotz, do you have to act fast before a contending team takes another center from another team and leaves you hanging on to Ryan O'Reilly, for example, and you can't trade him?
That's sort of putting off desperate.
Yeah, I hear
you're
you.
Desperate.
For sure.
And Barry doesn't want, and nor should he be desperate to move an individual just because, say, the
Flames.
The Flames.
Yeah.
For instance, the Flames want to, somebody come to them and they want a player.
Right.
And
They
it's
have a center named Nazem Kadri who fits the same mold as Ryan O'Reilly. He's been in the league a long time. He's won the Stanley Cup. He won with the Avalanche a few years ago. A lot of teams are going to want Kadri. So it's like, well, if this team, if I don't act fast with Ryan O'Reilly, that team is going to acquire Kadri, and then they're not going to need O'Reilly anymore.
But you're going to end up settling for less, I believe.
Right.
If indeed you take that approach, just like this. Yeah. He said, listen, I know where I want where that line is.
Yeah.
Okay. And just because you, Calgary, are about to get rid of your player doesn't mean that I'm going to try to swoop in and say, hey, listen, I take less.
Yeah.
No, you got to give me what I was asking for. If not, then okay. We just don't make the deal.
615-737-1025. We will take your reaction to our interview with Barry Trotz. We will also take your thoughts on Vanderbilt and the college football playoff. The new rankings will be out in just a matter of hours. I am prepared to be aggravated. And, of course, we will discuss all of that tomorrow. Clark Lee will join us tomorrow at 4. So we'll get Clark's reaction to the college football playoff rankings as well. 615-737-1025. We'll wrap up the show next. Derek and I are live at Bridgestone Arena. David James is back at the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick 102.5 The Game. Derek Mason and Adam Vingan here with you. Predators pregame with Max Hers coming up at the top of the hour. The Predators host the Calgary Flames tonight. It's a matchup between the teams ranked 31st and 32nd in the standings, so somebody has to win. But the Predators are coming up at 6 o'clock. Pregame coming up at 6 o'clock. Puck drop at 7 o'clock.
Grudge
right
match.
here, yes, right here on 102.5 The Game. Tomorrow, we will be joined by Clark Lee at 4. Jonathan Hutton will join us at 5. Silly
Clark.
underdog. Yep, 4 Clark. Silly underdog picks.
Oh,
Conference
yeah.
championship edition.
Yeah. Who got the first pick?
I think I do.
Seriously?
Yes.
I had last pick last week.
I think Hal had the first pick last week, so I'm up. So I think I think I have the first pick. So I have the pick of the conference championship later.
Man.
Will
it's
I
only
pick,
what, 5 games, 4 games?
There aren't that many. Will I pick Duke to beat Virginia? I guess you'll have to find out tomorrow at 5.
Probably not.
Probably not. That would be rough. Jerry on our text line about a Ryan O'Reilly conversation. He says, again, I ask, why are we trying to get rid of Ryan O'Reilly if the young players come in next year or the year after that and are really good nucleus for our much better team? Wouldn't you want a really good veteran to help solidify that team? If you just keep getting rid of your decent players, you're not going to have anybody left. And it's the same thing we talked about with Jeffrey Simmons. That's why I made the parallel between O'Reilly and Simmons. O'Reilly is 34 years old. He's got this year and next on his contract, if I am not mistaken. And O'Reilly is not going to be here when the Predators, hopefully, are competitive again. I understand Jerry's point. Barry Trotz made the same point. O'Reilly's leadership is invaluable, but can you put a price on what he can bring you in a trade? So that's the thing you have to weigh. It's the same thing. It's the same conversation we had with the Titans and Simmons. Willie and I were on the team of you've got to trade Simmons. He's not going to be in his prime when the team can be competitive again. You can actually get something that can help you turn around your team. Derek was clearly on the other side, but I'm in the same place. I have a lot of admiration for Ryan O'Reilly. He is a fantastic hockey player. He will tell you he's the worst hockey player on planet Earth when he's not playing well, but that even then, he's still an incredibly good hockey player. Teams that are in contention will be banging on Barry Trotz's doors, begging to have Ryan O'Reilly. And at this point, we talked about it in the last segment. At this point, as valuable as Ryan O'Reilly could be to the next generation of Predators players, I think he is more valuable if you can get a first-round draft pick out of it.
It's different. I agree with Barry and with you. As far as O'Reilly and keeping those lines of communication, open, because you never know what someone's going to offer unless you keep it, at a point where they are able to offer and you're taking the phone calls. The only reason I am pro this and was against the Titans moving away from Jeffrey Simmons, because outside of Jeffrey Simmons, the Titans don't have many veteran leadership.
That is something I thought about myself.
And the Titans, in Predators, they have more veteran leadership.
Right. If you lose O'Reilly, I was thinking about that myself. If you lose O'Reilly, you still have Yossi, you still have Forsberg, you still have Stamkos. So I completely agree with you, Derek. I was thinking about that myself. But I saw this headline from Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk, and I wanted to share it with all of you. Quote, Lane Kiffin claims Ole Miss fan tried to run him off the road. From Mike Florio. Quote, new LSU coach Lane Kiffin met reporters for the first time in Baton Rouge on Monday, and he made a pretty strong claim about fans of his former team at Ole Miss. Via ESPN.com, Kiffin contends that a Mississippi fan tried to run his car off the road on the way to the airport. Quote, I think that people get really upset when you leave somewhere because they feel hurt, because you're doing a really good job, Kiffin said. They ain't going to the airport and driving from all over to say those things and yell those things and try to run you off the road if you were doing bad, end quote.
He didn't have a police escort. Ole Miss must have said, you know what, you drive to the airport yourself.
Oh, man.
Because I would think, like a head coach, wouldn't he get some type of escort there? Maybe not. Maybe Ole Miss and then
Ole Miss probably
State Patrols was like, you know what, see ya.
You're on your own, Lane
Exactly.
Kiffin. You're on your own. By the way, the best part about this is Eli Manning famously went to Ole Miss, quote tweeted that story from Florio and said, "Oops."
He was sorry it was Eli.
Yes, it was Eli. It was Eli Manning the whole time.
I mean,
but
come on, Blaine. Just for, you don't have to. Just Lane, you at LSU, man. You don't have to. Like you said, bring in a little tiny violin, and woe is Lane. And listen, if somebody tried to run Lane off the road, please. It ain't even that serious.
You could say they went on the wrong lane.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane, driver. But again, listen, I understand that you love your sports and you love your team, your hometown team, but it's not that serious. If indeed that happened, you should be ashamed of yourself, the person that did that. So, but it's Lane Kiffin,
right? You've got to, you got to
you got to take it take it with a grain of salt,
right?
When Lane says it, okay.
Now, here's something that happened today in the NFL, Derek, and I want your thoughts on it. The Pittsburgh Steelers picked up Adam Thielen off waivers from the Minnesota Vikings. But in addition to that, the Steelers waived veteran cornerback Darius Slay. If you're the Titans, considering the state of the cornerback room, would you consider picking up Darius Slay for the rest of the season?
Oh, man. I'm not sure. There's a reason why Pittsburgh cut him.
He was a healthy scratch for Sunday's game against the Bills. He's 34 years old.
Yeah, I wouldn't venture down that road, man.
He won the Super Bowl with the Eagles.
Yeah, and he hasn't been the same player since then. And that was obviously last year. He just
I assume I assume there is some link between Slay and Denard Wilson. I have to imagine maybe there's some overlap at some point.
Denard wasn't in because Slay was in Detroit, Philadelphia.
He was in Philadelphia. So I don't know if there was any overlap.
It may have been, but yeah. Listen, I think the Titans are at a point, man. Just let these young guys play.
Yeah.
Just there's no need to bring in a 34-year-old guy that ain't gonna be on the team next year. He's just gonna finish out the season. He may not even be active, the remainder of the 4 or 5 games they have left. So I wouldn't. If I'm the Titans, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. Let my young guys play.
He signed a 1-year, $10 million contract with the Steelers in free agency and started 9 games. Missed the Week 11 game with a concussion. And he played just 20 snaps recently against the Chicago Bears, his fewest of the season other than the injury-shortened game. So,
yeah, if I'm the Lions, if I'm Titans, I'm not touching that.
That makes sense. I was just curious because there are a lot of respectfully,
because
there are a lot of no names on the cornerback.
If they were in contention
room
and say they needed, okay, but it's like, man, let these young guys play.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to go about it. In a couple of hours, we will see the latest college football playoff rankings. Oof. We've made our case for Vanderbilt.
Yes, we did.
Trevor Maddich earlier in the program, you asked him, "What's it going to take?" And you said an alien abduction. He said an alien abduction. It's going to take an alien abduction, I assume, of Notre Dame and Miami and BYU. It's going to take an alien abduction of those 3 programs for Vanderbilt. Look, they've been stuck at 14 the past couple of weeks. I'm interested to see if they move up even at all. And look, I'm prepared to be aggravated. I'm prepared for Vanderbilt not to make it. There's too much working against them. And it's a shame because they had the best season in program history. We started off the show talking about how reportedly Jared Curtis, the top quarterback prospect from Nashville Christian, is flipping from Georgia to Vanderbilt. That announcement is expected to be made official tomorrow. But there's a lot to like about what's going on at Vanderbilt. It feels like I'm not saying there's a conspiracy. It does feel like I just feel like the deck is stacked against them. There are just too many other things that have to happen for Vanderbilt to ultimately
I go back to the first initial ranking.
Yes.
And I said, if they are outside of this line, them getting in it's going to take God to move heaven and earth for them to get in, basically. And that's what it's come to.
In the first ranking, they were 16th.
Exactly.
They were 16th
Absolutely.
In the first ranking. They were 14th in the second ranking. 14th and 14th.
They never got higher to 14th.
Yeah, they
never
started
got
at 16th and they moved up to 14th, and they've been stuck at 14th.
The only way they were going to get higher to 14 if they would have beat Alabama or Texas, one of those games, and they didn't win either one of those games. Now, they were close. The Texas game was close. The Alabama game, if you watched it, the score wasn't indicative of how that game went. But yet, and still, once they made that first initial ranking, I said Vanderbilt's in trouble. They're in trouble. They're setting it up so they have no shot unless they just run the table. They have no shot at making it.
So we'll see how Vanderbilt fares. But again, there's a lot to like
I'm
about what's
hoping.
going on for the Commodores. Diego Pavia doing a full-on media blitz, campaigning for himself as the Heisman Trophy winner and for Vanderbilt to make the college football playoff. I think Pavia has one hell of a case to be.
Pavia should come on with Clark Lee tomorrow. And just
Can
make
you
his
imagine?
case.
Can you
Yeah.
imagine that interview? The two
That'd
of
be
them at the
great.
same time.
Absolutely, that'd be great.
Look, Diego.
I'm throwing that out there. I'm throwing it
All right.
out there.
We'll see. Diego Pavia, he was back on with Bussin' with the Boys. That interview was recorded yesterday. I believe it was published today. Pavia was also on with Wake Up Barstool, making his case. So we'll hear from Clark Lee tomorrow. The CFP rankings, the latest CFP rankings, will come out in a couple of hours. But we will talk to Clark Lee tomorrow. Hopefully, he has the cigar smoke out of his clothes after the celebration at Tennessee. Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow will join us at 5 o'clock. Silly Underdog Picks, Conference Championship Edition, coming up at 5:20 tomorrow, and be listening for your chance to represent the people and to win a prize, which we will let you know about tomorrow. But if you, in case you missed it, a fun-filled show. Trevor Mathis joined us. Barry Trotz joined us. You can find those interviews wherever you find your podcast. But that'll do it for us today. Max Hers will have Predators pregame for you coming up in about 5 minutes. The Predators host the Flames, a puck drop of 7 o'clock before they head out on the road for a couple of games. But that'll do it for us. We'll be back at the studio tomorrow. We will talk to you tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Be loved. Love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful Tuesday. I love you. The team loves you. You hear that music. Don't you forget about us, because we will not forget about you. See you tomorrow, 3 p.m. on 102.5 The Game. Peace.